Chapter 2001 Imaginary Replicator. Mag came out from the kitchen. He looked at Amy, who was resting on Ugly Duckling's little tummy, and smilingly asked, "Are you satisfied?" "Yes. Father's crayfish and grilled fish are really delish." Amy nodded. She quickly looked up with a serious expression, and said, "But, don't forget us when you guys eat supper in the future." "All right, we will definitely call you next time." Mag nodded with a smile. The children went upstairs to sleep. Mag lay on the bed alone after washing up, and clicked open the two glowing experience bags in his mind. The experience and information related to the drunkard peanuts and pig ears salad came surging in immediately. Mag only pushed open the door to the test field for the god of cookery after closing his eyes, and digesting the information for a while. Peanuts were one of the best foods to go with alcohol, and were rumored to have the special effect of relieving hangover. For example, he wouldn't have been so drunk if he had eaten more peanuts. All that showed the peanuts' unshakable status in the drunkard's world. And that drunkard peanuts were the best among peanuts, as if having been custom-made for drunkards. They cemented their status among the dishes to go along with alcoholic drinks. The spicy and crunchy drunkard peanuts were perfect whether eaten with the cold and icy beer or the fragrant and mellow Mao Tai. Furthermore, the frying method of the drunkard peanuts was very simple, at least the current Mag found it very easy to learn the dish. Meanwhile, the pig ears salad was equally easy to learn after he had the experience of making the sliced beef and ox tongue in chili sauce. Every part of the pig was a treasure. Apart from the soft and crunchy pig ears, the pig's nose and tongue were also excellent ingredients for a salad. If he made the preserved tongue just like preserved meats by letting it air dry naturally for some time before cooking it simply, and making it into a salad, it would be even more tasty. The usual drunkard peanuts were made by soaking the peanuts in cold water, and removing the skin before deep drying them. Some of the deep frying oil would be kept, chili and Sichuan pepper would be added in to be stir-fried, and they could be served. Meanwhile, the master's drunkard peanuts would be soaked in the mala spicy marinade for 2 hours, and the skin would be removed and the peanuts frozen for 12 hours before being deep-fried to golden brown. Keeping some of the deep frying oil, the dried chili and the Sichuan pepper would be added in and stir-fried. Then, the fried peanuts would be tossed in to be stir-fried too. After turning off the fire, white sugar, salt, and pepper would be added in and quickly stirred. The drunkard peanuts made according to this method would be spicy and crunchy with a hint of sweetness. It was perfect as a dish to eat while drinking alcohol. 1 helping of ugly-looking drunkard peanuts. Fail. 1 helping of charred drunkard peanuts. Fail. 1 helping of too spicy drunkard peanuts. Fail. Mag looked at the almost perfect-looking drunkard peanuts that were still struck out by the system, and helplessly said, "All right. I decided to take back my previous words. This is indeed a very difficult dish." The god of cookery was after 100% of perfection. Even the slightest mistake couldn't be tolerated. That night, Mag was tortured in the test field for the god of cookery by the peanuts and pig ears. As a very talented candidate for the god of cookery, Mag succeeded eventually. Meanwhile, he used the leftover time to successfully create his own pig tongue salad. 1 helping of almost perfect pig tongue salad. Congratulations to the host for creating your first dish without a recipe. You unlocked a new achievement, Imaginary Replicator. Additional reward, 3 chances to use the test field for the god of cookery. Power of faith plus 10,000. Please continue to work hard to replicate and create even more scrumptious food, the system said, and bouquets of flowers even appeared in the test field for the god of cookery. There are rewards for that. Mag was slightly taken aback. This pig tongue salad was based on his previous life's memory, his experience gained from the pig ears salad and the sliced beef and ox tongue in chili sauce, and his own slight alteration. It was also achieved after countless failures. As for the name Imaginary Replicator, it was a little exaggerated. No matter what, he had created a dish by himself step by step without relying on the recipe provided by the system, and this sense of achievement had indeed made Mag very satisfied. Seems like Saipan Tavern will have 3 dishes to go with the drinks. Mag nodded in satisfaction before exiting from the test field for the god of cookery. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw 4 heads hovering around him. "Father, you overslept today," Amy smilingly said. "I'm hungry." Irina was also smiling. Breakfast was usually ready when they woke up, so they couldn't get used to it today. Meanwhile, Annie gave Mag a sweet smile, and used sign language to say good morning to Mag. Meow. Ugly Duckling rolled next to Mag, and leaned its head on Mag's arm. It placed its little paw on Mag's chest, as if it was going to sleep in with Mag. "Did I forget to set the alarm clock?" Mag turned to look at the alarm clock on the bedside table. He didn't expect that it was already 9 in the morning. He couldn't help exclaiming, "It's already so late." Although the time in the test field for the god of cookery was set to move slower, after learning 2 dishes and coming out with the pig tongue salad, he had indeed spent quite a lot of time there. It was already 9 o'clock when he woke up. However, it felt great to be surrounded by the people he loved when he woke up in the morning. Mag shifted Ugly Duckling's head aside, got up, and smilingly asked, "All right, I'll get up to make breakfast for you. What would you like to have?" "Mother said she was going to bring us shopping today, so we'll just have the simple Yangzhou fried rice." Amy had already changed into a pretty dress, and was already carrying her down jacket. "All right. Please wait a while. It will be ready soon." Mag quickly washed up and went downstairs. Very soon, 5 helpings of Yangzhou fried rice were served. Ugly Duckling came downstairs on its own after it smelled the aroma. Its appetite had been growing exponentially recently. It had to eat a whole helping of Yangzhou fried rice to feel full. Until now, Mag still hadn't found out what species of magic beast this fat orange that could fly was. He still hadn't discovered its combat power, but it was getting increasingly good at acting cute. When they were eating, Mag looked down at Ugly Duckling, which was munching on the fried rice, and asked, "Yes. Do we disguise Ugly Duckling too?" The roly-poly fat orange cat was too recognizable. After Saipan Tavern got famous, others could easily discover the abnormality. "It's indeed necessary." Irina flicked a glance at Ugly Duckling and nodded. "Then, turn it into a swan." Amy swallowed her saliva. "Meow, meow." Ugly Duckling looked up at Amy, and the fried rice was no longer delicious to it. "It's a little difficult to turn it into a swan. How about a panda? It looks like this." Mag picked the tablet at the side, and searched for a cub's picture. "Wow! This is so cute. I really want to have it." Amy's and Annie's gaze were attracted by the cute little cub in the picture. "What magic beast is this? Why have I never seen it before?" Irina was also rather curious. Chapter 2002 I am going to be killed by its cuteness. With the black fur and 2 black eye circles, other than having a smaller head, it looked exactly like a panda. "Wow! It's so cute." Amy carried the dazed Ugly Duckling with an ecstatic expression. Mag looked at the shocked Ugly Duckling, and smilingly lamented, "A hairstyle can indeed change a person's fate." Right now, the persona of a young man opening a tavern with his beautiful wife, 2 beautiful daughters, and a roly-poly pet panda cub was established. "All right, let's go," Mag smilingly said. He got up, and was ready to leave. "Aren't you going to open the tavern?" "Father, are you coming with us too?" Irina, Amy, and Annie were looking at Mag perplexedly. Mag looked at the 3 of them, and pondered for a moment before he suddenly realized what they meant. "So you guys didn't include me when you said you wanted to go shopping?" As a tough man, Mag suddenly felt a little hurt. The tavern is different from the restaurant. No one will come and drink in the morning. The tavern usually only operates at night. Mag explained the difference between operating a restaurant and a tavern to his 3 precious. "Furthermore, we have only bought this tavern for 1 day. If we open for business the next morning, people will have doubts once they step in. It was already considered fast to complete the renovation of a normal tavern within 2 weeks. It would easily arouse suspicion if Saipan Tavern completely changed its furnishings overnight. All right. Then, you will be allowed to go shopping with us. Irina nodded. Should I cheer happily? Mag cocked his eyebrow a little, but he was still rather happy. The family of 4 put on their jackets and went out. Whoa! Look at him! He bought half of the street yesterday, and moved in last night. Rich people's thoughts are really unfathomable. Wow, his wife is so beautiful. Wow! Are those 2 his daughters? They're so adorable. What's that black and white roly-poly pet? It looks so cute. The neighbors, who were sunning themselves and chatting at the doors, came out to look at Mag and his family, and commented on them enviously. They were all shocked by this family of 4 and their pets' great looks. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. A noodle shop's boss laughingly said, I thought Mr. Hades was rather handsome yesterday. Looking at them now, he's, without a doubt, the ugliest in his family. Eofi slowly backed out in the crowd. She hid herself behind the restaurant's boss's fat body, and blushed slightly. Last night's events kept replaying in a loop in her mind after she woke up from her drunken state today. The more she thought about it, the more embarrassed she was. After seeing the family of 4, she even wanted to find a hole in the ground and hide away. Good morning. Mag greeted all of them courteously. They were neighbors, after all. They still had to get along for the next 1 month. Moreover, he had bought half of Romo Street. The value of this street had to be propped up by these neighbors. Good morning, Mr. Hades. What a cute little girl. Are you all going shopping? The neighbors all reciprocated since Mag took the initiative to greet them. Ugly Duckling lay in Amy's arms, and coldly looked at those stupid humans who were trying to play with it like a king without any emotion. Amy pinched its round face, and ordered, Come, give us a smile. O, equals omega equals m. Ugly Duckling was forced to put on an act. Whoa! So adorable! I am going to be killed by its cuteness. What pet is this? I want to have one too. Roly-poly and soft. It must feel great to cuddle it when sleeping at night. The little maidens were instantly mesmerized by Ugly Duckling, and they were all asking about its information. This is a national treasure. Do you think you can keep it as a pet? Mag chuckled inwardly. He didn't know if pandas existed in this world, so he couldn't give a definite answer. He only said that he bought it from a hunter, and had no idea what it was, either. After a brief interaction with the neighbors, Mag and his family quickly left. What a rich and happy family! I am so envious. Yes. But why is such a rich family coming to the deserted Romo Street to open a tavern? We can never understand what the rich people are thinking. The neighbors watched Mag and his family go away. Their topic of conversation was still their new neighbor. The fat boss turned around to Eofi, who was standing behind him, with concern, and asked, Lady Boss Eofi, you don't look very well. Ah, I might have drank too much yesterday. I'm fine now. Eofi lowered her head, lit up a cigarette, and took a deep puff. She blew a circle of smoke as she looked at the sky far away in a daze. Drink less and take care of your body, the fat boss said. Business is bad. If I don't drink with those customers, they won't come again. Eofi sighed. Customers can only be seen at Titan Tavern on Romo Street now. Boss Eofi has good business methods, and holds her drink well. I have never heard that anyone defeated you when it comes to drinking. The noodle shop boss looked at Eofi with admiration. Won't those men get themselves a good deal if I get drunk? Eofi laughed in a self-mocking way. Everyone changed the topic after hearing that. Eofi had indeed supported Titan Tavern's business all by herself. However, the neighbors couldn't make themselves say that Eofi was an indecent woman when they knew she wasn't. Romo Street was in Rodu's city center. At the end of the street were all the offices of the court's agencies. However, because of this, there weren't many residential areas around, and the shops here were mainly running their businesses with the court officials in mind. That's the Ministry of Defense. Its defense has been heightened after that incident happened. Mag used his gaze to indicate the row of cottages at the opposite side diagonally. If you were him, whom would you choose as your next target? Irina asked Mag. After pondering for a brief moment, Mag replied, a completely random target can create even more panic, and give the opponent no way to investigate. I hope he isn't thinking like that. Irina frowned. He has 2 brains now, so it isn't hard to think about that. Mag shook his head slightly. Amy tilted her head, and curiously asked, Father, are you guys talking about which restaurant we are going to have lunch at this afternoon? Yes, but we just had breakfast, so let's walk around for a while before we decide about lunch, Mag said with a smile. Alrighty. Amy nodded obediently. Mag reached out to hail a horse-drawn carriage. The family of 4 hopped on, and headed straight for Rodu's busiest commercial center, Tuck Square. Tuck Square was Rodu's biggest square. All kinds of big and small merchants gathered here, and all the snacks here were famous too. Chapter 2003 This is too amazing. There were still crowds in all the big and small shops, and the hawkers on the streets were still yelling and promoting their wares enthusiastically. It was a scene of peace and prosperity. Compared to Chaos City, Rodu's business atmosphere and the square's sizes were much greater. They could see interesting things everywhere. The children were so excited. Mag became the cat carrier. He carried all 3 women's shopping in one hand and the national treasure in the other as he followed after them. Ring the goose, ring the goose. 5 copper coins for 1 ring. You can bring the big goose home when you ring it. You can braise it, barbecue it, or make it into a soup. Come over here. Throw the darts at the wooden board. 10 copper coins for 10 darts. You can choose any beautiful gift as long as you hit the board. Lively shouting could be heard from afar. Goose. Amy's eyes lit up when she heard that. She pulled Annie along as she ran towards the stall a distance away. Let's see what ring a goose is. Why aren't there any new innovations? Mag looked at all the crowded game stalls, and even though he sounded disdainful, he felt a sense of familiarity. The Ring a Goose game stall was surrounded by many people watching. 20 to 30 geese were kept within a small fence. They squatted around scatteredly, and called out to the people watching with their necks stretched out. A hunky man threw his last bamboo ring out with a sincere expression. Just as that ring was about to land on that big, fat goose in the center, the big, fat goose took a step backwards, and pulled back its neck. Sigh, that man sighed heavily with a reddened face. Taking out more money, he angrily said to the boss, "Boss, aren't your geese getting too smart? They know how to evade the rings." The lanky game stall boss chuckled, and quickly picked up the bamboo rings on the ground as he smilingly said, "Hee hee, what are you talking about, dear customer? I can see that your technique is getting better, why don't you buy another 10 rings? I'm sure you will get a big, fat goose home, and your wife is going to praise you for it. One more time. One more time." The customers at the side cheered him on too. It was interesting to watch people try to ring the goose. It was even funnier when the person failed and looked frustrated. That man hesitated for a long time, and finally shook his head and clenched his teeth as he said, "Forget it, I have already bought 50 rings, and I didn't even get myself a feather. Nobody is able to get these geese." The boss took the money, and smilingly said, "What are you talking about, dear customer? A young man just won 2 geese earlier. My geese are good geese." Right at that moment, a soft voice said, "I would like to have 30 rings." The boss scanned the crowd around before his gaze landed on a little girl standing in a corner. The little girl looked about 3 or 4 years old. She was little and exquisitely cute. "Little girl, do you want to ring a goose?" asked the boss smilingly. Amy nodded, and seriously said, "Yes. You have 30 big, fat geese here, so I want to have 30 rings. This little girl wants to win 1 goose with each ring. This little girl is so adorable, and she speaks so adorably too." The people gathered were all looking at Amy with a smile. "I didn't even get 1 goose with 50 rings. This little girl is quite boastful. She wants to catch 30 big, fat geese with just 30 rings." The man who was trying to ring the geese earlier was also laughing. "You will need to pay money to ring the geese. Where are your parents?" "1 ring costs 5 copper coins," the boss said smilingly. This was a little sucker who had sent herself right to him. This little one would have trouble just to lift the bamboo rings up, let alone toss them out to ring the geese. One had to know that this group of big, fat geese had been specially trained by him since they were born. Their skills at evading the rings were already perfect. Not to mention a 4-year-old child, even a knight might not be able to get them. "I have money." Amy took out 2 silver coins, and gave them to the boss. "Give me 50 copper coins as change." This, the boss looked around. He wasn't in a hurry to take the money. Mag and Irina went forward, and smilingly said, "Let the child play if she wants to. We saw that. Whoa! This family really looks good." "Yes. The father is the ugliest in the family." The onlookers noticed Mag and his family, and their eyes widened. "What ugliest in the family? How can they speak like that?" Mag rolled his eyes. Did these people think that he was deaf? The boss heard Mag, and instantly took the money, and gave Amy her change in copper coins. 30 rings. I'll put them here for you. Take your time. We are not in a hurry." The boss placed the 30 bamboo rings next to Amy's feet. The little ones were usually playful. 30 rings were most likely not enough, and she would most likely buy more later. Her parents looked rich too. "Alrighty." Amy picked up a bamboo, and surveyed the big, fat geese within the fences, as if she was considering which one to catch first. The onlookers were all watching excitedly, and many were discussing if she could catch any. They had been watching many people trying to catch the geese, but this was the first time they saw such a little girl trying to catch one. If those geese stretched their necks up, they would be taller than this little one. Most of them didn't think Amy could do it. After all, the little one even seemed to have trouble lifting up the bamboo rings, let alone tossing it out to catch the goose. "How are we going to bring them back if we catch all of them?" Mag asked Irina worriedly. Irina looked at all the bags and ugly duckling that Mag was holding and pondered. "We should be able to bring them all back if we hang them on your neck. That will be too flamboyant." Mag imagined the scene whereby 30 big, fat geese were hanging from his neck, and couldn't help frowning. Meanwhile, Amy threw out the first bamboo ring. "Tossing you." The narrow bamboo ring made a beautiful curve in the midair, and landed on a goose's neck before the big, fat goose could retract its neck. It spun around a few times before hanging on its neck securely. "Wow! She got it! This is too amazing! Luck? Power? Shocking!" Looking at the big, fat goose with a ring on its neck, the onlookers erupted into a loud commotion following a brief silence. "Damn!" The big guy who failed to catch a single goose with 50 rings opened his mouth wide in a daze. This, the boss was shocked too, and he stared at the bamboo ring that was hanging on the goose's neck with disbelief. He only managed to squeeze out a smile after a while. He reached in to get that goose out, and said, "See, it's really easy to catch these geese." This little child managed to catch one with her very first ring. The boss tied the goose up, put it to one side, and simultaneously told himself repeatedly, "Luck. This must be just luck. 150 copper coins. I'm still making a profit even when I lose one goose, tossing you." Then, Amy tossed out the second ring. We are not even a 4-year-old girl's match. One might be luck, but two continuously. This should be her potential, right? The boss is in big trouble now. She looks like a noob, but is, in fact, an expert. The onlookers were looking at Amy with shock, as if they had just seen a girl with hidden abilities. As for the boss, they were looking at him with schadenfreude. Many onlookers had tried to catch a goose themselves before, and they knew how difficult it was. This boss really had a black heart. Therefore, they were very happy with the boss' reaction while being astonished by Amy's ring-tossing skills at the same time when they saw that Amy was catching one goose with every ring. The boss' face was sullen. He got that big, fat goose that was looped by the ring out of the fence with a trembling heart and shaking hands. He felt like slamming this goose over his shoulders. How could it let a 4-year-old catch it so easily? It's too slow to catch them one by one. Amy picked up 3 bamboo rings, and threw them out like a flower girl scattering petals on a wedding. Hit! 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 3 hits! He's dead meat! R.I.P., the 3 rings that seemed to be tossed out casually caught 3 fat geese securely. This! Why is this happening? The boss' lips quivered. He was about to cry. He could still earn some money for the feed with 150 copper coins for 2 geese, but now it was a loss after losing 3 geese in one go. What made him even more afraid was that this little one looped 5 geese with 5 bamboo rings. It was a 100% hit rate. She still had 25 rings, and there were still 25 geese within the fences. Going along with this flow, 1 ring would take out 1 big, fat goose. The geese were in danger. Amy passed a few bamboo rings to Annie and Irina, and smilingly said, "Wow, this is so fun. Come and play too, big sister Annie." "All right. That will minimize my losses." The boss heaved a breath of relief when he saw that. He might be able to keep a few geese as long as this little one didn't continue to toss the rings. "That's all." Irina looked at the bamboo ring in her hand, and casually threw it out. 3 geese with 1 ring. How is the boss going to count that? According to the boss rule, it's a hit as long the ring lands on the goose's neck. These 3 geese belong to that beautiful lady. Did this family deliberately come here to make things difficult for the boss? The bamboo ring looped onto 3 geese's necks together at the same time. Her skills shocked everyone present. 3. Congratulations to this beautiful lady. 3 geese with 1 ring, the boss looked crestfallen. He finally realized that his 30 geese were not even enough for them to catch. Meanwhile, Annie hesitated with a ring in her hands for a long time at the side before she tiptoed and tossed it out gently. The ring landed on a goose snoozing in a corner with its neck tucked in. Now, everyone's gaze landed on Mag instead. They couldn't hide the envy in their eyes. It feels so good to depend on women. He's a man who makes people envious. Mag puffed out his chest with a successful man's smile on his face. Yes, it was this sensation. The commotion at the geese game stall attracted even more onlookers. The people were tempted to try their luck while being amazed at Amy, Irina, and Annie's 100% hit rate. The onlookers kept cheering. They were already numb to the result of catching 1 goose, but they still couldn't help cheering when they saw the bamboo rings leave Amy's little hands and accurately land on those big geese that tried to evade them. The boss had given up completely. He had decided to let it go completely, and cheer Amy on loudly. He swiftly tied up all the geese that Amy caught, and put them at the side. He was taking the loss as in for his business. It was rare to have so many onlookers, so he could always earn back the money in the future. There were 5 rings left out of the 30, but there were no more geese left within the fences. The boss chuckled, and said, "You have caught all the geese, but if you still want to throw the rings, I will stand here and let you catch me." "No. You're too ugly." Amy flicked a glance at him, and immediately put the bamboo rings down on the ground. Everyone erupted into laughter again. Not only was this little girl exquisitely cute and great at throwing rings, her words were very interesting too. The boss froze slightly, but he still managed to smile and say, I have already tied up the 30 geese for you. Do you want to bring them away right now? He couldn't go back on his words when so many people were watching them. Moreover, looking at the family of fours dressing and temperaments, they weren't people that a little stall owner like him could afford to offend. All he wanted to do now was to send this family away, and return home to raise another batch of geese. Mag flicked a glance at the big, fat geese that piled up at the side. Every goose was about 5 kilograms heavy, so there were about 150 kilograms of geese here. Furthermore, they were alive. Amy, we can't finish so many geese, so why don't we just take the 2 fattest ones and sell the rest? Mag asked Amy. He couldn't imagine carrying 30 big, fat geese on him. All right, we will just pick 2 then. Amy nodded, and went forward to pick out the 2 biggest geese. The boss, who was about to pack up and return home, heard that, and his eyes lit up. He went forward, and smilingly said, why don't you sell them to me? It will save you the time and effort. There were so many onlookers right now. He could earn back the money he used to buy the geese today if he could buy back this batch of geese right now. I can only sell 10 of them to you. If you want to replenish the number of geese, there is a stall selling geese next door. Mag looked at the boss with a smile. These geese were obviously trained. This wasn't wrong, because he wasn't running a charity. However, this boss was a little too much. All 30 geese were trained, so the probability of catching a goose was reduced to 0. That was too much. The boss's expression froze, and then he stole a glance at Mag guiltily, but he still smilingly said, all right, I'll just take 10 then. I will pay 100 copper coins for each of them. It's 20 copper coins more than the market price. The 10 odd geese left over were all bought by the onlookers with 100 copper coins each. These big, fat geese looked good, and were about the same price as in the market, so they were rather popular. Whoa, it's really fun to ring a goose. We got to eat geese and earn money at the same time. Amy counted the money with a happy smile. Please come again, the boss said with a miserable smile. Of course, he didn't want to see this family ever again. He would pack up and leave as soon as he saw them come to the square again. Let's go. The darts stall over there seems fun too. Amy kept the money, and her gaze landed on the stall that threw darts at the wooden boards. The boss of the darts stall was trembling. Amy and Annie played a lot of games before stopping in front of a snack street. They turned around to ask Mag, it's so fun here, but I'm a little hungry now, so where do we go for lunch? Let's try out Rodu's local snacks, Mag smilingly said. Irina had kept the things that they bought and the 2 fat geese kept at a shop temporarily. His hands were now free, and he wanted to try the famous Rodu's local snacks too. Such squares whose target customers were the locals would have more delicious local snacks than those so-called foodie streets. This was Mag's years of experience. Vanessa sat in the horse-drawn carriage, and asked, Uncle Abraham, did something happen recently? Why do I feel that father doesn't seem to be very happy? Children shouldn't bother with such matters. What's the most important now is where we will go for lunch. I heard that a nice beef restaurant has opened in Tuck Square recently. I'll bring you there for lunch. Abraham changed the conversation topic smilingly. He had just returned to Rhoda yesterday, and met the king in the palace today, so he brought Vanessa out for a fun trip. This little chowhound hadn't left the palace for quite some time too. Chaos City is so nice. Why are you back here? Isn't Mamie restaurant nice? Vanessa couldn't fathom it. Boss Mag brought little boss out for a vacation, and Mamie restaurant was closed for a month. Abraham sighed lightly. Did you think I really wanted to come back? Mamie restaurant is too delicious. Something like that happened. Vanessa was a little shocked to hear that too, but she soon smiled, and said, that makes sense too. Boss Mag dotes on little boss the most. Of course he would bring her out during winter break. So, I gave myself a winter break too, and came back for some time first. Abraham nodded. Then, you must bring me along when the restaurant reopens. I want to eat hot pot, red braised pork, and spicy grilled fish too. Vanessa looked at Abraham piteously. Regarding this, we'll have to see if your father will give you the permission. After all, don't we need to have our parents' permission for such matters? Abraham smiled. My life sucks. Vanessa sighed and looked out of the window with a wistful gaze. Cold wind blew against her face. Abraham smilingly replied, all right. I'll go talk to His Majesty when the time comes. I'll bring you along if he agrees. Vanessa immediately revealed a happy smile and nodded. Tee-hee. I knew Uncle Abraham was the best. The horse-drawn carriage stopped, and Lola opened the carriage's door. Princess, Lord Duke, we have arrived at ISS Beef Restaurant. The two of them got off the horse-drawn carriage. This was a big restaurant that was opened at the square's entrance. It was located in a 3-story building, which was completely occupied by this beef restaurant. Let's go. I've already made a reservation. Abraham led the way to the beef restaurant. The beef restaurant's boss already received the news of their arrival as soon as they reached the door, and came to welcome them with a fawning smile. He led Abraham and Vanessa into the restaurant and straight to the exquisite private room on the second floor. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Amy held a beef bone, surprised, and commented, were those big sister Vanessa and the grandpa who has tired the fat eagle out who have just went upstairs? Yes, but we have to pretend not to know anyone on this trip. Hence, we don't know who they are, Mag smilingly said. He had also noticed Abraham and Vanessa going upstairs. They had tried all the snacks on the snacks street, but the little one wasn't full, so they came to this newly opened beef restaurant under someone's recommendation. Oh, all right. Amy nodded thoughtfully, and continued eating her beef soup. The taste at this beef restaurant was actually rather ordinary, at least it was to Mag. However, judging from the reviews of the surrounding customers, a beef restaurant of such standards could already survive in Rodu. Amy gulped down the beef soup, and looked up at Mag. May I have another bowl of soup, please? Of course, you may. Mag got the service staff over with a smile, and got another bowl of soup for Amy. After lunch, the family spent the afternoon having fun in the square again. Irina looked at Annie and Amy, who were sitting on the swing in the corner of the square with a lollipop each, and smilingly said, the two children are really having fun. Mag looked at her, and asked, are you happy? Irina turned to look at him. She suddenly pinched his face, and a smile blossomed on that exquisite face. I'm happy. I'm happy too, Mag said, likewise with a smile. As long as they were with the people they loved, they would also feel happy living simply in a small square. This was such an amazing experience. In his previous life, no matter how much money he had had, and how many people he had had by his side, he had still felt out of place in that world. He hadn't felt happy for a long time. However, although he was also rich now, as long as his loved ones were with him, he felt happy at any time. After returning to the tavern that night, Irina directed a question at Mag, who was doing preparation work in the kitchen. What kind of alcoholic drinks are you selling tonight? Beer. No. We're selling 2 new types of liquors, Mao Tai and whiskey. The beer isn't suitable to be sold in the tavern. It will arouse suspicion easily, Mag answered in the kitchen. Mao Tai? Whiskey. Irina looked confused. She had never heard of these 2 liquors before. They're the new liquors that I made. I have intended to introduce them in the restaurant, but I think they're just nice for Saipan Tavern now, Mag explained as he poked his head out. He also pointed at the 2 rows of small white porcelain wine urns displayed in the corner of the wine cabinet. That is the Mao Tai. You can try it later at dinner if you are interested. Of course, I will try it. I have never gotten drunk. Irina waved her hands, and a small white porcelain wine urn landed in her hand. This little wine urn was round with a smooth surface. Both its design and material looked very exquisite. The wine urn's opening was sealed with a red cloth and tied with a red string. It looked rather interesting. Irina reached out to remove the string and cloth. There was a wooden cork underneath. The faint liquor aroma could already be smelled. This aroma is rather special. Irina's nose twitched, and her eyes lit up. Although she wasn't an alcoholic drinks lover, Irina could hold her drinks very well. Both of them had tried all kinds of drinks throughout the Norland continent during their travels in the early years. This liquor's aroma was very unique. It was even more fragrant than rum. She felt a little intoxicated just smelling it. Pop! Without any hesitation, Irina removed the cork. Chapter 2006 My hubby is the best. This wine is not bad indeed. Mag, who was in the kitchen, could not help but exclaim with his eyes wide when he smelled the fragrance of the wine. This wine was not brewed by him, actually. Mao Tai was not beer, and it was impossible to brew it immediately. It required years of fermentation in a wine base that was years or even decades old. It also involved very complicated details during the brewing process, such as the choice of season and more, which made the brewing process very restrictive. Now that Saipan Tavern was open, Mag would definitely not turn up only when the wine brewing was done a few years later. Therefore, he purchased a batch of ready-made Mao Tai and whiskey from the system. As for the Mao Tai and whiskey brewery, Mag had intended to hand it over to Hannah after her rum factory successfully started operating, and was in the production phase. According to the system, it had reinstated the ancient way of brewing the wine. In addition to the refined way of modern wine brewing, it had created the best quality Mao Tai. Mag did not enjoy white wine, but he did have a few cups of Mao Tai before when drinking with seniors. Comparing the fragrance alone, the system's Mao Tai did thrash the ones that he had before. Don't be in a rush to drink it. I'll get you some dishes to go with it, Mag told Irina, who was grabbing the wine bottle in a rush to down it all. There are still dishes to go with it. Irina was slightly surprised. However, she still sat by the table with the wine bottle. In no time at all, Mag came out with a small tray. There were drunkard peanuts, pig ears salad, and pig tongue salad, as well as a shot glass. They are all new dishes. When did you learn it behind my back? Irina was surprised when she saw the dishes. I didn't learn them. I created them, Mag said calmly. She picked up the bottle of wine, and poured a glass of Mao Tai for Irina. You'll get drunk easily with this. It's different from beer. Drink it slowly and savor it slowly. Aren't you sitting down to have a couple of glasses with me? Irina saw that there was only a shot glass. Today is the first day of the tavern's opening. I won't be drinking, otherwise I won't be able to serve the customers properly. Mag shook his head with a smile. He was not so conceited to think that he could drink shot after shot and not get drunk. As a tavern owner with professional ethics, in order to give his clients the best service, his principle was always not to drink during work hours. All right, then I will drink alone. Irina picked up the glass, and took a small sip. After taking the sip, she furrowed her beautiful brows. It was indeed a little different from beer. This Mao Tai was rather soft. However, her frown eased very quickly. The refreshing texture exploded in her mouth, and the rich alcohol made her want to analyze its fragrance. The fragrance of grains and the sweetness after fermentation. All the fragrances were too much for her to handle. If beer was a maiden dressed in a sundress, Mao Tai would be a lady carrying a pipa with her face half hidden. When you took away her pipa, there was still a veil over her face. After a very long time, Irina opened her eyes. The taste was still lingering in her mouth. It was a taste that had her asking for more. This wine is marvelous. Irina praised. It was gentle and sweet like fruit wine, and its refreshingness was different from that of beer. This moutai made her realize that wine could be savored slowly. The elegant and fine texture made it irresistible. Don't just drink, have some food, Mag reminded Irina, who picked up her glass for another shot. Would I not get drunk if I had a peanut? Irina used her chopsticks to pick up a drunkard peanut, and sent it into her mouth. Crunch! When her teeth collided with the peanut, there was a soft crunch. It's crunchy. Irina had tried the goblin's salted peanuts before, and she did not really like their soft, mushy texture. However, this peanut without its husk was actually crunchy. After that, its fragrance exploded in her mouth. The numbness from the Sichuan pepper, the spiciness and fragrance from the chili, and the amazing fragrances from the other spices were released as she chewed. Crunch, crunch, crunch. This peanut is really fragrant. Irina looked up at Mag, and threw another peanut into her mouth as she smiled happily. She looked as though she was saying, "My hubby is the best." Of course, can't you see who's the one who made it? Mag smiled brightly too. The drunkard peanuts were his culinary skills condensed into a small plate, representing the powerhouse of all side dishes to go with alcohol. I didn't expect Romo Street to become so desolate as well. A middle-aged man in a long black robe walked on Romo Street, sighing when he saw the shops by the street closed and put up for rent. Bobby was an official with the military. Many things had happened in the military for the past 2 days, and this made the suave military land into a sorry state within a night. The military had been cordoned off for 3 whole days. Many officials were brought away to be questioned, and even those with idle roles like him were not spared. He was only allowed to go back to the military to continue working today. He heard about the family murder case in Rodu yesterday. It was the family of the superior he respected the most. Last night, when the superior received the news, he smashed his head against the wall and passed away. Nothing could be expected. After finishing his work at hand, Bobby did not feel like going home. He intended to have a little drink at Romo Street. However, the taverns he used to visit often with his superiors had all closed down. The familiar restaurants and taverns were all gone. All that was left was the empty street. Ah! Bobby sighed. He glanced at the crowded Titan Tavern far away. He had heard of that tavern before. The wine there was so-so, but the lady boss there was quite a beauty. He just wanted to have a quiet drink alone, but it seemed there was no better choice now. Just when he was about to walk to Titan Tavern, a faint alcoholic scent stopped him in his tracks. He frowned slightly, and sniffed even harder. Is that the fragrance of wine? Bobby was rather surprised and uncertain. The fragrance was too enticing. After slight hesitation, he followed the scent, and arrived at a brightly lit tavern soon after. I can't believe this tavern is still around. Bobby was rather surprised. However, after looking at the signboard, he understood. The owner has changed. However, the scent became stronger when he walked closer to the tavern. If he had simply wanted to get wasted at the start, then now he would really want to give the fragrant wine a shot, and let himself be intoxicated by this delicious wine. The tavern appeared to have started operating, so he pushed the door open and entered. The layout of the tavern was completely different. The hall was very spacious, and the place looked simple and classy. It had a brown, wooden theme, making one feel very comfortable and relaxed. Meanwhile, Bobby's gaze was drawn to the only customer in the tavern, or rather the little crystal glass in front of her. That was where the rich fragrance came from. With his senior's experience, taverns with thriving businesses would not usually have good wine. That was because good wine would require meticulous brewing and strict requirements. Without their own brewery, ordinary tavern owners would not have too much of their own brews. An example would be the Titan Tavern, which was famous because of its lady boss, with its mediocre wine. However, not everyone would be particular about the quality of the alcohol when drinking. Most people were particular about the atmosphere and company. If his senior was still around, he would probably be very happy drinking even if they were sitting by the street with only a bottle of bad quality fruit wine each. Of course, if his senior was still around, he would definitely be very happy to have found a new wine in this new tavern. Mag had also noticed this customer that entered. From the ever so familiar uniform, Mag could tell the other party was from the military. However, he did not have a high rank. The exhaustion in his face was apparent. His bloodshot eyes told everyone that he did not seem to have had proper rest. Based on what had happened in the military over the past few days, his exhaustion was not difficult to understand. On top of that, him being able to come here for a drink at this time showed that he wanted to stay further away from the core power struggle in the military. "Hi, what would you like to drink?" Mag asked from behind the counter. Bobby came back to his senses. He looked at Mag, and pointed at Irina's glass as he replied, "Get me a bottle of that lady's wine. Mao Tai, 2,000 copper coins a bottle. We have side dishes to go with the wine. Do you need it?" Mag introduced the price. Actually, the officials of the Roth Empire did not have very high salaries. This middle-aged man facing a midlife crisis would only have around 10,000 copper coins a month as his salary. Therefore, he might not spend 2,000 copper coins on a bottle of Mao Tai. 2,000 copper coins. Bobby frowned. This price was indeed much higher than that of the alcohol he had before. Even a cup of wine delivered personally from the Titan Tavern's lady boss would only cost 50 copper coins a glass. Yes. Mag nodded with appropriate warmth and distance. Bobby thought for a while, and said, "Give me a bottle then, and a helping of drunkard peanuts. And 2 glasses." Compared to the Mao Tai and whiskey which cost 2,000 copper coins per bottle, the 30 copper coins drunkard peanuts were way too affordable. Bobby did not have much appetite, so he did not order the other 2 side dishes that looked a little strange. Weren't pig's ears and tongue things that only the peasants in slums would take back home to cook? All right. Mag nodded slightly. He took down a bottle of Mao Tai from the shelf and 2 shot glasses. After that, Mag poured a plate of drunkard peanuts out, and served it to Bobby, who was sitting by the door. "Enjoy." "Thank you." Bobby nodded slightly. He picked up the white circular bottle. The bottle was very smooth. He undid the cloth sealing the bottle, and saw a cork underneath. Professional. If his senior had been around, he would definitely have praised it. Now that his senior was not around, Bobby praised Mag in his stead. "Pop, if you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks." The moment the cork was pulled out, the rich fragrance of the alcohol wafted out. Although the entire place was already filled with the fragrance of the wine, the fragrance that rushed out of the bottle still made his eyes light up. This was not fruit wine. It did not have the refreshing fragrance of the former. However, it did have an even stronger and lingering fragrance. It should have been made from grains. He had tried many grain wines, but none of them had a fragrance this strong. He poured the alcohol out. It was clear, and even reflected the light from the crystal glass. His senior once said that a good wine deserved a good wine set. The clarity of this wine would not show if it was poured into an ordinary ceramic cup. However, the crystal glass was able to bring it out even more since it was even clearer than crystal. How was that done? Bobby was astonished. No matter how much distillation was done, be it fruit wine or grain wine, there would definitely be some sediment left in the wine. Even if there was a minimal amount of sediment, the wine could never be this clear. This just looked like water scooped up from a mountain spring. If it was not for the fragrance wafting out from this small glass in front of him, Bobby would not dare to believe that this was a glass of wine. "Sir, you've brought me to places to try good wine. This wine here must be one you've never tried before. I'll pour you a glass. Give it a try." Bobby placed the filled glass in front of him, and fell silent for a while before pouring another glass for himself. Irina, who had 2 glasses of wine, started to look out of focus. She turned back to glance at Bobby. She frowned, and then looked at Mag as she raised a brow. Mag shook his head slightly, indicating that he, too, was not very clear what that man was doing. However, it seemed like he was not waiting for a living person. Saying that might be a little scary. The correct way to put it was that he was drinking with a dead person. Oh, no, he was here to reminisce about his senior. There had been many deaths in the military for the past few days. It seemed like one of them was someone close to this customer. Would he have any relevant information? Mag sized Bobby up silently, and thought of what he could get out of him after the man got drunk. "Sir, this first glass is a toast to you for helping me at work all these years." Bobby picked up the glass, and finished everything in a shot. It was different from the refreshing and sweet fruit wine, and was also different from the bitterness of grain wine. This wine was smooth, and the fragrance seemed to explode in his head, flowing into his limbs. The texture was fine, and the taste was refreshing and sweet as the wine flowed past Bobby's teeth. After swallowing the wine, the fragrance lingered, making him want more. Bobby did not put down the glass for a very long time as he enjoyed its taste in shock. All these years with his senior, Bobby could be considered half a professional. This was definitely the best wine he had ever had. For some reason, the memories of the past started flashing past his mind. 2 middle-aged men walking down the streets, 2 middle-aged men supporting each other after getting tipsy as they vomited while walking, and 2 middle-aged men sleeping on the streets after getting totally wasted. Bobby could not take it anymore. He started crying. That was the senior he respected the most, his best drinking buddy, and his brother for life. Within a night, everything was gone. Even his family and mansion. All he did was obey orders and whatever he should do. Why were he and his innocent family members the ones dead? Superb, Mag raised his brow slightly. He could not empathize much. Perhaps it was just like what Mr. Zhou Shuren one had said, people's feelings were not interconnected. As he cried, Bobby poured himself another glass of wine before chugging it down. After he chugged the second glass down, he felt calmer because he was a little tipsy. Therefore, he started mumbling to the empty space in front of him. "Senior, say, although we're officials in people's eyes, we're still ordinary people. You were at least a 6th-tier knight. I'm not even a knight. We didn't do anything bad. We just followed orders from above. Now that something happened, why is it our fault? Tell me. All you did was listen to orders and press the seal to send out the secret message, but then they arrested you. Military orders are absolute. If you hadn't sent that secret message, you would have been arrested a few days ago." Sigh. "This is all a mess, a mess." Bobby chugged down another 2 glasses. He started to mumble as he rambled on. Mag understood what was going on. This customer was an official from the military, and he had a close senior who was involved in this incident. He was one of the generals whose family was wiped out the night before. "Don't just drink, have some peanuts." Mag sat before Bobby. He pushed the plate of drunkard peanuts that had not been touched yet towards Bobby. Bobby turned to look. His gaze was unfocused. After spacing out for a long while, he reached out, and put a peanut into his mouth. Crunch, crunch. The peanut was chewed into pieces, and the fragrance woke Bobby up a little. He also became a little more talkative. He pulled Mag's hand, and started to tell him about his love story. No, scratch that, his brotherhood with the senior. Mag grabbed a handful of peanuts, and became a qualified audience. Irina, who was drinking alone, came over with her wine curiously. She sipped on the wine as she listened intently, even cheering at the exciting parts. "But do your wives know you two were so gay?" Irina asked curiously. "Gay? That's pure brotherhood, brotherhood, okay. Bobby tilted his head, and he looked at Irina as he emphasized the important part loudly. Got it. Brothers are more important than your wives. The most important thing after work is to go drinking with your brothers. Irina rolled her eyes. She glanced at Mag, and said murderously, if you dare to do that, I don't mind being a widow. I have no brothers, Mag quickly clarified when he saw the half-tipsy, half-vengeful Irina. Sigh. Life is so unpredictable. I thought we could drink until we were old. I didn't expect him to leave before me just like that, Bobby sighed deeply. Here, have a little more. Mag poured him another glass of wine. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Bobby chugged it down, and went back to his stories. You mean your senior was wronged? This has nothing to do with him. Seeing that Bobby was almost gone, Mag started to lead him on with questions. Isn't that so? What was he? How could he deploy the army from the borders? Besides, it's a war against the Orcs and Elves. No one would believe it was possible, Bobby mumbled with a nod. Who gave the order? If it was the king, why was he arrested? Mag continued asking. Why are you asking about this? Bobby glanced at Mag cautiously. Here, have another glass. You're not drunk enough. Mag poured him another glass. Gulp. Bobby gulped it down, and started talking again. I heard my senior say that it was not the king who gave the orders. It was the second prince who did it in the king's name. I have no idea what he did to trick everyone. After that, the king came back to Rodu, sent troops to surround the military, and arrested all the generals. Everyone in the military had to be questioned. Sigh, what's all this? Besides, a killer from nowhere slaughtered the families of many generals the night before, and burnt everything to the ground. There was not a single complete corpse to be found. Now everyone is just afraid that they will be the next target. There was no explanation from the top as well. This is too much. Bobby was completely drunk before he even finished half the bottle of wine. Thankfully, Mag had managed to get the address out from him, and even took out his money pouch to settle the bill. After that, Mag helped Bobby out, and got him a horse-drawn carriage, even instructing the coachman to send him home. Right now, Andrei is probably stumped. Irina staggered to the door and into Mag's embrace without realizing. I told you this was strong, and you didn't believe it. Mag looked at Irina, who had fallen asleep in his embrace, and picked her up with a pampering smile to send her upstairs. Fruit wine had even less alcohol content than beer. Therefore, Bobby and Irina would be drunk before even drinking much of Mao Tai, which had high alcohol content. After sending Irina upstairs, Mag was about to go downstairs again when Amy and Annie peeked their heads out from the playroom next door. Father, is Mother already asleep so early? Amy asked curiously. She drank a little, and is slightly drunk, so she turned in early tonight, Mag said with a smile. I see. All right. Amy nodded. However, she said very quickly, did you only drink and not eat? Mag could tell what Amy had in mind, and smilingly said, we still have some leftover side dishes downstairs. If the two of you are hungry, you can go grab some. All right. Amy quickly nodded happily, and went down hand in hand with Annie. Because Irina got drunk very quickly, she still had quite a lot of drunkard peanuts left on her plate, and the pig ears salad and pig tongue salad were almost left untouched. Mag warmed some milk for the two little fellows. The side dishes actually went quite well with milk too. This peanut is deshelled. Amy picked up a peanut with her chopsticks, and threw it into her mouth. She chewed quickly, and the munching sounds made her look like a little squirrel nibbling on pine cones. It's good. Fragrant and crunchy. Delicious. Amy popped another peanut into her mouth happily, and even reminded Annie to try it. Annie also put a peanut into her mouth as she chewed softly. She was also smiling very brightly. It seemed that she also liked the drunkard peanuts a lot. Meow, meow. Ugly duckling walked over and meowed impatiently. I want to try this pig ears salad. Amy picked up a piece of pig ear. In the middle of the thin pig ear was a white tendon. It was coated with a layer of red oil and a dash of sesame seeds. Amy put it into her mouth. Crunch, crunch. Wow, this taste! Superb! Amy's eyes lit up as she chewed happily. One China's famous writer with the pen name Liu Sun. Chapter 2009. Are you teaching me what to do? On the first day of the shop's opening, he had one customer. At about 9 p.m., Mag walked out. A gust of cold breeze caused him to shudder. There were only a few other taverns open for business along the street. Among them, Titan Tavern, which was diagonally across, had the best business. At that moment, laughter could still be heard from the tavern, while the situation in the other taverns was almost like that in Saipan Tavern. There were probably more staff than customers. There was not a single soul on the pitch-black street. Only the cold wind blew. With a crowd like that, Mag could not help but admire the shops that had not closed down. There was nobody out there at all. Closed for the day. Mag flipped the sign hanging on the door, and switched off the light for the signboard. A day had ended just like that. Although there was only one bill, they had earned 20-30 copper coins. That would have surpassed many at Romo Street. Just as Mag had thought, opening a tavern here could allow him to meet some officials of the Roth Empire and find out much useful information from them. All right, it's getting late. Our two princesses should go up to get ready for bed, Mag told the two children playing the cat's cradle game as he locked the door. All right. Amy placed the clump of tangled wool on the table, and jumped off from her chair. She had zero talent for the cat's cradle. Annie also stood up. She reached out and took the messy ball of wool. Her fingers moved quickly, and the knotted string had gone back to its original state in no time at all. After that, Annie wrapped the string around her wrist. Mag told the two fellows a bedtime story, and left the room silently only after they had fallen asleep, not forgetting to close the door behind him. Just when he was getting ready to wash up and go to bed, an urgent knock came from downstairs. There were 9 soft knocks and 1 hard knock. A familiar tempo. Mag went downstairs to open the door. He saw a flustered Noya supporting Morant, and quickly stepped aside to let them in. After going out to clear the bloodstains around the tavern, Mag went back and closed the door behind him. He looked at the pale Morant sitting on the chair and Noya with beads of perspiration on his forehead. Mag asked, "What's going on?" "It's all my fault. I'm stupid. Grandpa got injured while saving me. I'm so useless," Noya said with frustration as he slapped himself. Morant reached out to hold Noya's hand as he said breathlessly, I'm fine, Grandpa, don't move." Noya quickly supported Morant. He looked at Mag, and begged, "Boss Mag, please save my grandpa. Don't be anxious. I'll get the medic," Mag reassured Noya, and turned to walk upstairs. Morant's injuries were serious. With Mag's band-aid medical skills, he probably could only send him on his way. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Thankfully, there was a superb medic upstairs who was still drunk. Mag was also unsure if he could wake her up. Mag opened the door and saw Irina, who was originally on the bed, lying sprawled on the floor, with a pillow in her arms. Indeed, no matter how beautiful you are, once you're drunk, you will still do something out of your control, Mag mumbled to himself. He pulled out the newly bought fresh apple juice from the system, and helped Irina up. "Thirsty? Water?" Before Mag could open his mouth, Irina was already mumbling. "Here, water." Mag quickly passed her the apple juice. Irina grabbed the apple juice, and started gulping it down. "Delicious. Thank you. Irina placed the cup accurately into Mag's hand, and went back to sleep. Wait. We have an injured patient downstairs. Why don't you treat him first before going back to sleep? Mag quickly held her up so she would not lie back down. Injured patient? Irina turned to look at Mag. She was much more awake than before. Yes. If you don't save him, he'll be gone. Mag nodded. He had already decided not to let her drink Mao Tai again. The most he would allow her to drink was red wine and beer. Help me up, Irina commanded. Mag quickly helped her up. Wait for me to get changed. Irina turned to look at the closet. No need to get changed. This is fine. I'll just get you a jacket. Mag took the down jacket lying at the side, and put it on Irina before helping her down the stairs. When they had arrived downstairs, Noya was already a cat on a hot tin roof. Morant, on the other hand, was much calmer. He had pasted a few talismans on himself. He was leaning on the chair without any expression of pain, and was even consoling Noya. When Mag and Irina arrived, Noya quickly went up to them. You're not okay. Irina sized Noya up and down. And not me. It's my grandpa. Noya quickly shook his head. He could smell the alcohol on Irina, and she seemed rather drunk. Noya could not help but worry if she could work her spells properly. Here. Mag helped Irina over to Morant. Let me go. Irina pushed Mag's hand away, and started to observe Morant carefully. Boss Mag, is she up to it? Noya whispered worriedly to Mag it should be fine. Mag was uncertain too. Morant was severely wounded. There was a big hole through his abdomen. It was as though a sharp weapon had pierced through him, spun one round, and brought his flesh and blood out together with it. Other than that, there were a few other injuries elsewhere, some inflicted by spells and some caused by weapons. He's not dead yet after all this. Irina exclaimed in shock after looking at Morant for a while. Is that how you should react? Morant, who still had his final breath, almost vomited blood and dropped dead at that moment. Please, save my grandpa, Noya pleaded. All right. Irina reached her hand out, and a foldable chair appeared in her hand. Hey! Everyone in the tavern was stunned. Oh, wrong one. Irina threw the foldable chair aside, and pulled out her magic caster's staff. Oh holy light, wipe out all darkness and filth, Irina chanted as she raised her magic caster's staff. The dazzling holy light landed on Morant. Ah! Morant let out a painful howl. The talismans on him started lighting up. Is that the wrong spell? How can you use the holy light for treatment? You should use your healing magic. Noya exclaimed in shock. He went up immediately, wanting to stop Irina. Are you teaching me what to do? Irina turned to look at him. Chapter 2010 There's nothing wrong, you're really. This was the aura of a big boss. Even if she was wrong, she would be rightfully wrong. Mag watched as Morant was roasted in the holy light, and his eyelids twitched frantically. He glanced at Irina, who seemed rather drunk, and was worried if this would end up becoming medical malpractice. After all, Morant was from the Ghost clan. He would feel uncomfortable before the holy light. The holy light continued shining on Morant for 3 minutes. Other than the talismans, Mag could even see some black wisps being purified by the holy light. Morant was already unconscious from the excruciating pain. Grandpa! Noya wanted to rush up. Mag held Noya back because Irina had started chanting her healing magic spells. Bits of faint golden glow fell on Morant. The horrifying wound started to regenerate and heal at a visible speed. The entire process went on for around 10 minutes. The empty area in Morant's abdomen grew new flesh, and he regained some color on his pale face. It seemed as though his breathing became stabler. All right. Irina kept her magic caster's staff, closed her eyes, and fell backward. Thankfully, Mag reacted fast enough and caught her. Since she was not completely sober from the alcohol just now, she fell asleep from exhaustion after using her magic on such a tricky case. Grandpa! Noya went up. Although Morant had not regained consciousness, it seemed that his life was no longer in danger. Thank you. Noya thanked Mag and Irina as he kneeled on the floor. All right. There are no rooms upstairs. It's rather inconvenient to have you staying in the tavern. I'll come back down later to bring you to the house beside. You can stay at Romo Street for the time being, Mag said as he carried Irina upstairs. Noya put the unconscious Morant on his back as he asked Mag worriedly, beside? Won't we be found out? Half of the houses on this street belong to me. You can choose a random house later, Mag said calmly as he put on his coat, and walked to the door. Rich, Noya raised his brow, and looked at Mag with admiration. Mag opened the door, observed the surroundings, and brought Noya out of the tavern after making sure that there was no one around. At last, Noya chose a black two-story building in the corner. The first floor was a little tea house, while the second floor offered more privacy. There was a complete set of old furniture, and the previous owner even left 2 beds and blankets behind. Mag kicked away the torn blankets that Noya was about to lay out. He bought 2 new sets of bed sheets from the system, and helped Noya lay them out. After that, Mag watched Noya place Morant gently on the bed. What happened? How did he get so seriously injured? Mag finally asked the question that troubled him for so long. We had been tracing the evil aura, and traced it all the way to the first prince's mansion. In the end, we were ambushed just after we climbed over the wall. We did not even have the time to investigate anything. In order to save me, Grandpa got this seriously wounded. Otherwise, they would never be able to hurt Grandpa with their capabilities. I am too useless, Noya said self-reproachfully. That's true. You are really useless. Mag nodded. This was the prime example of being dragged down by a burdened teammate. Noya looked at Mag with bewilderment. Even though he was feeling very remorseful, at a point like this, shouldn't one be saying things like "This is not your fault, you didn't do it on purpose," or "Your grandpa won't blame it on you." You can only protect people you care about when you become strong, Mag said calmly. Noya was slightly stunned. His expression turned determined gradually as he nodded with resolution. Don't go out for the next few days. There will probably be many people in Rodol looking for the 2 of you. If you're caught, I might not be able to help you escape. Mag looked at Noya, and instructed, I will send you your 3 meals every day. We will talk about other things when the old man has recovered. Thank you. Noya bowed deeply at Mag once again. He had been completely flustered just now. If it were not for Mag and Irina, his grandpa would probably be gone now. Drink a little of this, and have a good sleep. No one will disturb you. Mao Tai placed a small bottle of Mao Tai by the bed with a packet of drunkard peanuts. He patted Noya on his shoulder, and turned to leave. Gulp. Noya did not have dinner, so his stomach was grumbling a lot. He opened the packet, threw a handful of peanuts into his mouth, and chewed on them. It's so spicy. Other than the fragrance, the numbing spiciness made his face flush red immediately. As a young lad who barely took spice, Noya had a very low tolerance for spiciness. He looked around, and the only thing in the room was the bottle of wine beside him. Pop! Noya pulled out the cork, and chugged 2 mouthfuls down. Ah, delicious! Although he was not very knowledgeable about alcohol, he still knew how to tell what tasted good and what tasted bad. Noya could not help but compliment the alcohol. Grandpa would definitely love it. The wine was able to curb the spicy taste, so Noya threw another handful of peanuts into his mouth. After finishing a packet of peanuts and half the bottle of wine, Noya sealed the bottle with the cork again. He felt his head grow heavy, and very quickly fell asleep by the bed. At the entrance of the military, a big and tall general looked at the knights in front of him, and asked, "Have you found them?" "Sir, our soldiers have split up to trace them, but we've still lost their tracks," one of the knights reported. "Useless. You can't even find a heavily wounded old man," the general chided loudly with displeasure. All the knights lowered their heads, afraid to speak. "Sir, you've pierced right through that old man. After receiving such a fatal blow, he must have died. As long as we increase the scope of our search operations, we will definitely find them very quickly," a deputy general beside him said. The general's expression became a little better. He said seriously, "Continue searching. They might very well be the murderer from the incident the night before. Find them, and His Majesty will reward you handsomely." "Yes." The knights left quickly after receiving their order. "Already at Rodu? Hee, interesting." A cloud of black fog slowly seeped out from the first prince's mansion. A silhouette in a black robe walked out slowly from the black fog. His low voice was jarring to the ears, just like the sound of metal rubbing against each other. The man in black robe turned his head in the direction of the mansion, and quickly became a cloud of black fog and disappeared. "Senior." Bobby woke up with a start. He sat right up on the bed, and was drenched in perspiration. "Master, are you all right?" a middle-aged woman asked worriedly as she sat up beside Bobby, and passed him a handkerchief to wipe his perspiration. Bobby came back to his senses. He looked out at the light coming in from the window, and then at the middle-aged woman, who was looking at him with concern. He shook his head, and asked, "Why am I at home? What happened?" Chapter 2011 Life has to go on. All these years, such things had been happening very often. She knew very well whom her husband had been drinking with, and although she had been nagging about it, she did not really hold it to heart. Such a big thing happened in Rodu over the past 2 days. Even if she barely left the house, she still heard of the news. The family of the man who had been drinking with her husband every night was gone within a night, and that man also died in prison. There were more guards patrolling the mansion over the past 2 days, and her husband was grounded in the military. For a very long time, her heart was in her mouth. When she heard that her husband could return last night, she made a table full of food, and waited for him the entire night. In the end, a coachman drove her drunk husband back. Was I drunk? Bobby stroked his head. He did not have the feeling of disgust and dizziness from a hangover. Instead, he had had a good sleep that he had never had in a long while, and he felt relaxed all over. "You carried that bottle of wine back," Bobby's wife said as she pointed to a white bottle of wine on the table. "Mao Tai." Bobby's memories came back to him immediately when he saw the bottle of wine. He remembered his low feelings, walking at Romo Street, and entering Saipan Tavern because of the wine fragrance. He ordered a bottle of wine that cost 2,000 copper coins. The wine was rich and fragrant. It was something he had not tasted before. After that, he was drunk. Because he was so drunk, he did not even remember what happened in between, how he stopped a horse-drawn carriage and gave his address, and how he even remembered to bring back half a bottle of Mao Tai. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. He got out of bed, and shook the bottle of Mao Tai on the table. There was half of it left. This made him shocked at how strong the alcohol was. Only half of a small bottle could make him dead drunk. 2 to 3 bottles of fruit wine would never make him drunk. This owner is rather honest. He even let me bring the rest of the wine back. Bobby pulled out the cork. It was still the familiar smell that struck him. "Master, it's getting late. Rest for a little longer. I'll get them to make some porridge so you can have something before going to court." Bobby's wife secretly heaved a sigh of relief seeing that Bobby was not dispirited. "All right. Sorry to trouble you," Bobby told his wife seriously as he placed the wine down. Bobby's wife was slightly stunned. She looked at Bobby, and her eyes went red. She smiled and nodded as she walked out. Life, has to go on. Bobby stuffed the cork back on the bottle of wine, and had a resolute expression. Senior, let me take over all your unfinished wishes. As for the fellow who harmed you and your family, I will make him pay. Who am I? Where am I? Irina opened her eyes. She blinked, a little confused. She looked around, and realized she was lying on the floor. Did someone kick me off the bed? She sat right up, and saw the large, empty bed. There was no one on the bed at all. Moreover, the blanket was on the floor, covering her, and the pillow sat neatly on the bed. Drunk? She recalled taking a bottle of wine from the wine closet last night. After that, she drank a little alone, and got drunk. On top of that, she seemed to have saved someone while she was drunk? Or was that also a dream? You're up. The room door was open, and Mag stood at the door, looking at Irina sitting on the floor with a smile. Did you put me on the floor to sleep? Irina turned to look at Mag. You rolled to the floor last night, so I laid the sheets on the floor for you to prevent you from rolling to the floor again. Mag nodded with a smile. Irina, would never roll off the bed. Irina said seriously as she blushed. Get up and have breakfast. I've made some porridge. Mag looked at her pamperingly. I mean it, Irina emphasized. I'll get the kids. Mag smiled and closed the door behind him. Irina clenched her fists. She felt that her standing in this family was challenged. However, her stomach was rumbling, so she could only force herself out from the warm sheets, change into a beautiful dress, and go downstairs for the scrumptious breakfast prepared for her. Usually, Irina would have such a bad headache the next morning from the hangover she would have no appetite. But now, she did not feel any pain, and even felt that her sleep quality was really good. She felt super refreshed, and was even a little hungry. This wine is not bad. It aids sleep, Irina mumbled to herself as she opened the door to go downstairs. Did I save a human or a ghost last night? Irina asked Mag while having her porridge. Mag thought for a while, and said, you can say he's both. Oh, it was that old fogey, Irina said thoughtfully. They were ambushed in Sean's mansion. I think they fell into his trap. It looks like he had noticed us, Mag said. This fellow could always turn things around. Irina frowned. Yes. He is rather talented in certain aspects. Mag nodded. Amy concentrated on finishing her bowl of porridge, and while Mag was giving her a second serving, she asked curiously, Father, when is our tavern opening for business? I haven't seen a single customer. The tavern is only open for operation at night. We've already had our first customer when you were playing upstairs last night, Mag said with a smile. Is that so? Amy's eyes widened. She thought for a while, and said, in that case, can we continue to go out and eat all day long today? The little fellow changed the topic so smoothly Mag did not know how to reject her. Besides, he did not have much to do during the day. Bringing the children out to play could be considered taking a real break. Therefore, he nodded with a smile, and said, in that case, we'll find somewhere else to continue eating and playing. Hooray! Amy jumped off her chair, put her arms around Mag's neck, and gave him a peck on his cheek. Annie was also beaming with joy. Oh, right! We haven't had the 2 fat geese we won yesterday. Amy suddenly remembered something important. Why don't we come back at night to have roasted goose? All right, all right. I'll make roasted goose for you when we come back at night, Mag promised. After breakfast, Mag sent breakfast to Morant and Noya before they went out to play. What a happy family! Yet, I saw that their tavern closed really early last night. Maybe they didn't have a single customer. This is the real player. How envious, the neighbors on Romo Street lamented when they saw the family of 4 go out. Morant held the small bottle of his wine in his hand, tilted his head back, and finished the last drop of wine inside. He licked his lips, and then smacked Noya on the head. "Scoundrel! You've completely wasted such a good wine." Noya was confused. His grandpa almost died, but the first thing he actually cared about was the wine? "Where is this wine from? How dare you rascal hide such good wine from me?" Morant questioned Noya. Seeing that Morant appeared lively and full of strength, Noya finally was assured. He smilingly said, "Boss Mag gave it to me. It's just this small bottle. It's really just this small bottle." Morant was still in disbelief. He reached over, and searched Noya. "I really don't have a single drop of alcohol on me. But Boss Mag just sent breakfast for us." "Have some," Noya said. With the help of the bed's frame, Morant stood up. He stretched a little, and lifted his shirt up to check his wound. The flesh had grown over the scary-looking wound, leaving only a faint red scar. "That B*TCH is really ruthless. She almost sent me to see my maker with the holy light. But she is formidable. She healed some of my underlying problems from back then, and could even cure such a serious wound," Morant lamented. "Who is she? She's really powerful." Noya saw Irina cast the spell yesterday, and in a drunken state on top of that. This made him utterly shocked. The holy light, combined with powerful healing magic. A 10th tier powerhouse as young as her, I guess it would only be the elven princess, Morant said with a smile. "Princess Irina." Noya was so shocked that he raised his voice. "After that," he said in bewilderment, "but she's not an elf. She's a human. Do you think we look like humans?" Morant smiled. "You mean she was in disguise?" Noah thought for a while. After that, he had an epiphany, and said, "That's true. Boss Mag is Master Alex, so his wife must be Princess Irina. But Grandpa, we were tracking the evil aura yesterday. Why did we end up getting ambushed by humans? Could those humans have already been in cahoots with the devil? Maybe not. He must have known that there were troops waiting there, so he used the evil aura to lure us there on purpose so that others would do the dirty work." Morant shook his head. He had a grave expression as he said, "It seems like we were found out. We have to be even more cautious moving forward." "So does he know where we are?" Noya was nervous. "No. He only knows that we will definitely find him. That's enough." Morant shook his head. Smiling, he said, "Otherwise, we would have been dead last night." "What a sly and scary fellow." Noya clenched his fists. Golden Dragon Island. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Louis was standing by the road as he told Douglas seriously, the warning letter was sent to Rodu. Currently, Andre has not given any reply yet. However, if this was as Alex said, and was the Great Old One's plan, what should we do? Douglas said, Andre is not a rash and stupid person. He had endured for decades, so he would not be in a rush for a moment, nor would he put himself in danger. I am more inclined to Alex's conjecture. I'm afraid the devil is already in control of Josh, and is currently wreaking havoc everywhere, trying to incite a new racial war. In that case, what should we do? Now the orcs are still very angry, and the other races have all closed off their roads in preparation for war. Louis frowned. Perhaps we should take a trip to Rodu. Go straight to negotiate with Andre. No, to find Josh and the devil. Andre would never admit that the devil has already controlled Josh. This would only make him lose the support from his people. Therefore, we have to find Josh or force Andre to admit to this, and from then on, we come to a consensus, Douglas said seriously. That works. If I am not wrong, Alex and Irina should already be in Rodu. They are the people who know the devil the best. Perhaps we could find the tracks of the devil even faster through them. Louis nodded, and said, Oh, right. I think Elizabeth has left Chaos City. I think you golden dragons should not have any hopes for her. Elizabeth is a frost dragon. Douglas glared at Lewis. We'll have to see if you really see her as one of yours. You guys have made no improvement in that aspect at all after so many years. Lewis pressed his lips together. He did not care about Douglas's threat. Chaos City, the Buffett Manor. Grandfather, the borders of the Roth Empire have been closed. Now, only the members of the Peace Alliance have the necessary travel routes open, but there are restrictions for traders to enter and exit. I'm afraid a big change is going to happen this time, Sheer, who was standing by a frozen lake with a warmer in her arms, told Ian Buffett, who was using a thin bamboo rod to crack open the surface of the lake. Ian remained silent for a long time. He put down the bamboo rod in his hand, and turned slowly to look at Sheer. A smile appeared on his aged face. Wasn't this what we predicted a few years ago? It is just happening. But, Sheer frowned. This was what the Buffett family had gotten ready for years ago. It was not even the worst outcome. After all, the war had yet to break out completely. There were many races that had formed the Peace Alliance. Of course, the races were all in a tense state before the impending war. This had caused a significant impact and threat to the core supporting asset of the Buffett family, the Buffett Bank. The Buffett Bank had gained significant benefits and influence by creating convenience and providing funds for the races in terms of trade. Now that trade had stopped, and the situation was chaotic, people from different regions were swarming to the bank to withdraw their money as it would feel safer for the money to be in their pockets. Of course, before the peace meeting, the Buffett Bank had already been prepared for it to ensure that the cash flow of the banks everywhere was sufficient so that there was no frenzy or other problems. We have done what we should. The situation now is not what we can control. We have to see what comes out of the fight among the races. At least the situation and outlook currently are not the worst, Ian said with a smile. Sheer nodded. She agreed with Ian's judgment on that. Let's go to the study. I want to write a letter to the Goblin Chief. Even if people can't travel, we must ensure that the goods can pass through smoothly via the railroad. A time like this shows that a crisis is also an opportunity, Ian said with a smile as he stood up. Rodot was not an unfamiliar city in Alex's memory. André is rather nice to his subordinates and courtiers. Mag had a bag of mung bean pancakes in his hand. He looked out at the Great General's mansion not far away. Great General Bloom was currently the only one with a rank lower than Grand Marshal Dominic in the military. Although he was barely a 7th tier, he was a general with wits and brains. In war, a general's role was not to be a vanguard. The reason Bloom could rise up the ranks and be second to Dominic was that he was a sly fox. There were already troops surrounding the general's mansion, with a soldier every 10 steps. The general mansions in Rodot had become the key target of protection due to the murder cases in the military. Great General Bloom had been traveling in and out of the palace recently. He always had 10th tier powerhouses to protect him, whether he was on the way to court or at home. Mag was rather familiar with Bloom. After all, when Alex was in his prime, Bloom was only a lowly soldier in the military. And during the assassination on that rainy night, of the powerhouses from the military that Mag saw, the people participating in the ambush were under Bloom. He was a man supporting Sean and also one of the key people participating in getting rid of Alex back then. All of a sudden, a horse-drawn carriage came out of the main door. A corner of the carriage's curtain was lifted up. A face with a goatee flashed past before Mag. Tens of knights surrounded the horse-drawn carriage. Among them, the leader was a 10th tier knight. There were other 9th tier and 8th tier knights as well. Mag placed the other half of the remaining mung bean pancake into his mouth, and went around the general mansion leisurely while carrying his bag of pancakes. After that, he returned to the food street to look for Irina and the 2 children. A 10th tier, 3 9th tiers and more than 300 guards inside and out of the mansion. There are no blind spots in the patrol routes, Mag told Irina softly as he passed the 2 mung bean pancakes to the kids. Tonight. Irina looked at Mag. Tonight. Mag nodded. All right. Irina took a mung bean pancake as well. This mung bean is stuck between my teeth. Amy spat out a mung bean. She looked up at Mag with frustration, and asked, Father, isn't there a mung bean cake with soft mung beans? Pa, Irina also spat out half a mung bean. She looked at the remaining half of the pancake in her hand, and threw it into the trash can at the side without hesitation. Mag had no idea how the shop owner managed to make the mung beans in the mung bean pancake so hard. It was indeed the worst experience to bite into a hard mung bean in a soft pastry. Ding! New mission, a daughter's request, please upgrade the mung bean pancake in this world to produce a perfect mung bean pancake. Mission reward, amateur pâtissier title and a mysterious gift pack. Mission failure, eat 50 kilograms of raw mung beans. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Mung bean recipe has been issued. The host has to explore and improve the recipe. Just then, the system's voice rang in Mag's head. Hey! Mag raised his brow. He saw the simple recipe that appeared in his mind. This system's mission was rather abnormal. However, Amy's expectant gaze made Mag take this mission without any hesitation. Of course, he did not give in because of the punishment of eating 50 kilograms of raw mung beans. Since the ones outside are bad, why don't we buy some mung beans back home and try to make it on our own? Mag suggested. They were almost done shopping around this street. Okay. Let's make mung bean cake at home on our own. Amy nodded her little head, and raised both hands in agreement. Mag bought a large bag of mung beans, together with the other ingredients needed for making mung bean cake home. The recipe for the mung bean cake was very simple. Its core was to remove the skin of the mung beans, soak them in water, and squash them into mung bean paste before adding honey, sugar, and other ingredients. After that, place the mixture into a mold, and the mung bean cake would be done. Mag checked the recipe, and knew that the problem with the mung bean cake he bought had to be related to the process of squashing the beans. The owner had surely been careless with squashing the beans, so some of them were not squashed, and there were many mung bean skins in the pastry on top of that. That also made the texture of the pastry bad. Do you know how to make it? Irina asked curiously when Mag placed the bag of mung beans down. A little, roughly. Mag grabbed a handful of mung beans. The mung beans on the Norland continent were slightly larger, around the size of soybeans. Each bean was round and smooth. Wow, this is fun. Can we take some to play? Amy also found these ground mung beans interesting. She put her hands in the bag, and grabbed around, but could only grab 5 to 6 beans in a handful. Sure. As long as you don't throw it around, you can play with it however you like. Mag took out a box, and filled it with mung beans for Amy. Hee. Thank you, Father. Amy left with the box, and sat at the staircase. She placed the box by her side, and grabbed a handful of mung beans. Amy called out to Ugly Duckling, saying, Ugly Duckling, you have to bring it back. Meow. Ugly Duckling answered lazily, as though it was not very interested. Grrrrrrr. Amy threw out the mung bean in her hand, and the round bean rolled around on the floor. Ugly Duckling, which was lying around lazily, quickly pricked up its ears, and its gaze focused on the rolling mung bean immediately. Ugly Duckling crouched immediately, and slowly raised its hind legs. It wiggled its tail, and pounced right over. Boom! Ugly Duckling crashed right into the leg of a chair. Ha, so stupid. Amy and Annie were rolling on the floor, laughing. Meow. Ugly Duckling got up, shook its head, and called out woefully. Here it comes again, Amy hinted again before throwing out another mung bean. This time, Ugly Duckling observed carefully, and after making sure that there was no chair in the way, it pounced over happily, covering the rolling mung bean with its paws, and meowing delightedly. "Big sister Annie, come and play too." Amy placed a mung bean in Annie's hand, and threw 2 mung beans out. This made Ugly Duckling busy all of a sudden. Mag looked at the 3 little fellows who could have so much fun with mung beans, and smiled as he shook his head. He took out a big pot, and filled half of it with mung beans. After that, he added water into the pot to soak the beans. Chapter 2014 Gentleness That Can't Be Shed. Sigh. This is all gentleness that can't be shed. Harrison stroked his stomach and sighed helplessly. You don't want to marry Miss Georgina? No way. Harrison shook his head. I'll go over there to have a pancake while I take a walk. The line outside Mamie restaurant was a lot shorter, but there were more housewives and restaurant chefs with stools and notebooks outside, watching the tutorial videos seriously. For the past few days, Mamie restaurant was closed, but the news of its owner teaching more than 10 of its dishes for free had spread all over Chaos City. Mamie restaurant, as the most popular restaurant in Chaos City, was known for its prices and delicacies. The news of the owner disclosing his recipe and having a video tutorial took many housewives who wanted to improve their culinary skills by surprise. On top of that, the restaurant owners who had been keeping their eyes on Mamie restaurant for a long time quickly sent their chefs to the restaurant to copy the recipes upon hearing the news. During this period, there had been many mock Mamie restaurants popping up in Aden Square that had garnered a lot of attention and customers through their advertising. If they could learn the crux of just a few of the dishes, their restaurant would have their signature dishes, and they would no longer need to worry about their customer base. Buck up, all of you! Our goal today is to learn the braised chicken and rice. Whoever can recreate it the best will be the new head chef with more than 100,000 copper coins for your monthly salary, one restaurant owner said passionately with his fists clenched in front of his employees. The employees all took out their notebooks, and started staring at the screen and scribbling furiously upon hearing what their boss said. Boss Mag is such a generous person, Mabai lamented as he squatted at the entrance of his blacksmith store with a bowl of white rice in his hands. Will this affect Boss Mag's business when he comes back in the future? Zixi asked worriedly. Without Boss Mag around, she was now in charge of delivering food to Mabai and Lulu. Nothing to worry about. These people can learn how the dishes were made, but they can never recreate the quality of Boss Mag's food. Mabai shook his head with a smile. It's just like how everyone can forge weapons, but even if I did that for another century, I would never be better than Master Ram at it, and those who want a weapon from Master Ram would never come to my blacksmith shop to ask me to make them a weapon. That's true, Zixi nodded thoughtfully. She put the lunch box in her hands down, and said, in that case, I'll go and take a look to learn some culinary skills. Soaking the mung beans took up quite a lot of time. On top of that, as Mag was not in the test field for the god of cookery, he was unable to fast forward time. Therefore, Mag used the time waiting for the mung beans to prepare the 2 fat geese that he'd brought back for Amy yesterday. One of them went into the oven, while the other went into a pot to stew. Amy, who had changed her playground to the entrance of the kitchen, witnessed the entire scene. As the fragrance of the roasted goose and stewed goose wafted out from the kitchen, Amy swallowed her saliva, and said, "The big fat goose died so fragrantly." After that, Amy glanced at Ugly Duckling. Smack! The mung bean that Ugly Duckling held in its mouth fell to the ground. Perhaps it was hungry for the goose in the pot, or the stewed goose was prepared like the braised chicken with a little tweak. Instead of potatoes, shiitake mushrooms were added. Although the quality of the geese could not be compared to that provided by the system, they were big and fat, and there were 2 of them. It was enough to feed this family with a shocking appetite. When the oven was opened, the fragrance of the roast goose wafted out. Mag took out the golden brown roast goose, and put it aside to cool for a while. This roast goose was not suitable to eat straight out of the oven. After it was cooled, the skin would become crispy, and it would taste better. Mag cooked another 2 dishes, 2 greens in the simplest way with no complex seasoning needed. After a quick stir-fry, he added a dash of salt, and the dishes were ready to serve. Mag chopped off a wing, and put it in Ugly Duckling's bowl. The little fellow had been salivating. "The goose we won feels even tastier," Amy said as she swayed happily. She put a piece of roast goose in her mouth, and very quickly swallowed everything, including the chewed bones. "Here, have a taste of the stewed goose. This is my first time making it. Try it." Mag put a piece of thigh meat in Irina's bowl. Irina picked up the meat, blew on it, and put it into her mouth. It tasted similar to the braised chicken. The tender goose meat carried a faint mushroom fragrance. The seasoning had been totally infused into the meat. It was slightly spicy, and the rank odor of the goose was removed very thoroughly. The traces of alcoholic fragrance made one fall right into it. It was a completely different experience. "Delicious," Irina told Mag with a nod. There were numerous stars in her eyes twinkling. "This is perfect. To be able to make a dish so delicious on his first try, my man indeed." Mag smiled with satisfaction. He picked up a piece of goose meat and tried it. Stewed goose in a steel pot was a popular dish in the northwestern region of China. His version was not as authentic, although the steel pot was there. However, the taste was still pretty good. The fire was controlled very well. The only bad part about it was that the goose was a little too fat, so its skin was a little greasy. Mag was going to try this dish with the system's goose next time. After lunch, the family of 4 cleared the table. Mag went into the kitchen, and started to remove the skins of the soaked mung beans. The mung beans, which had been soaked for a long time, could be easily deskinned with a simple rub. "Father, let me help too." Amy moved a little stool over. She copied Mag, and picked up a handful of mung beans from the pot. However, when she rubbed the beans in her hands, they turned into green popcorn. Mag looked at the perfectly popped popcorn, and was at a loss for words. "Wow, this is incredible. Is this edible?" Amy fed Ugly Duckling the popcorn. Ugly Duckling ate it without thinking. Amy squatted at the side to observe Ugly Duckling for a long while. After that, she nodded thoughtfully, and said, "It's not poisonous." "Meow, meow." Ugly Duckling tilted its head, and looked at Amy. It felt cheated. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Amy threw a popcorn into her mouth, and it crunched loudly. "This is fragrant and crispy. Delicious." Amy's eyes lit up. She shared the remaining popcorn with everyone else, and started her popcorn operation. Mag looked at her with a smile. This little fellow could find something to make herself happy any time. For the entire afternoon, Mag was studying how to make mung bean pastry. Meanwhile, Irina brought the 2 children out to play and watch a movie. She was completely in a holiday mood. "Here, try this first version of chilled mung bean pastry," Mag said with a smile as he came out of the kitchen with a plate of animal-shaped mung bean pastries. Chapter 2015. There's probably no chance in this life. Annie and Irina appeared rather hesitant and resistant to trying, while Amy's eyes still glimmered like it would when she saw food. "I want to have a little bear, and then the little penguin." Amy put on her disposable gloves immediately, and grabbed one animal in each hand. She stuffed the little bear mung bean pastry into her mouth, and bit its head off. Amy's cheeks were puffed out, and her blue eyes lit up. She blinked her eyes in surprise, and said, "It's cool and icy. Very refreshing, very delicious." Irina and Annie, who were still a little hesitant, reached out for the mung bean pastry as well. Irina took a small bite. The previous few versions that Mag made were better than the one bought from the streets, but having too much of it was rather revolting. After having more than 10, Irina felt that she almost smelled like mung beans. However, the mung bean pastry this time was rather special. It was chilled, but did not become hard like ice. It was just cooler. The moment the chilled mung bean pastry went into her mouth, the sweetness also decreased by a lot. The texture was still as fine and refreshing, and the pastry would melt easily in her mouth. It tasted denser, and was fragrant and soft, yet not sticky. It was indeed very delicious, and was not as sweet as before. Annie also ate the pastry in small mouthfuls quickly. The smile on her face showed that she was very satisfied with the mung bean pastry as well. "How is it? How's the taste of the chilled mung bean pastry?" Mag asked with a smile. "Delicious. Its texture is better, and it is no longer too sweet. This is way better than the mung bean pancake we had in the morning, and also slightly better than the previous few versions." Irina nodded. She looked at Mag with admiration. It only took an afternoon for this dessert to see obvious changes. He was indeed a stunning talent in culinary. "That's great. Have it first. I'll go back to improve it further." Mag placed the tray down, took a piece, and tried it. The chilled mung bean pastry was indeed better. It was no longer so sweet, but the texture was not affected. But upon meticulous tasting, Mag could still feel that there were some solid pieces. This is the right direction. There is an overall texture and taste, but it is still far from perfect. Looks like I have to find some time to go into the test field for the god of cookery. There are still many places to improve on. Mag found a lot of issues after trying a piece of the mung bean pastry, and started on another trial. Of course, his current standard of the mung bean pastry would definitely top the sales in pastry if he was to sell it. Because he made too many of the mung bean pastries, Mag sent some over to Morant and Noya for them as dinner. "Perfect tools. Boss Mag, I am very thankful to you and your wife for saving my life," Morant said gratefully with a deep bow. "Don't worry about it. We have a common goal, so we should help each other out." Mag quickly helped Morant up. He did not think that he did anything great last night. On top of that, Morant and Noya were in danger because they were tracking Josh. Helping them was what he should do. "I made some mung bean pastries. Have some. There are 2 helpings of fried rice too. Take this as your dinner." Mag placed the lunch boxes down, and drew a circle at the corner of the room after that. He placed a circular dish down. "This is?" Noya asked in bewilderment as he looked at the circular dish. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. This is a simple one-way teleportation portal. It can be used to teleport some items. I will be delivering the food through this teleportation portal from now on to avoid attracting too much attention by coming over frequently, Mag explained with a smile as he finished up with the portal. "That's convenient," Noya exclaimed. "We should be continuing with our investigations, but things have to be delayed now because I'm injured," Morant said self-reproachfully with a sigh. "It's all right. Now, we can confirm that Josh is in Rodu, and he already found out that we are tracking him." Mag smiled. "If he continues to leave his evil aura for us to trace, we will only be led on by him, and will easily fall into his trap again. Then what should we do?" "The only thing we can do now is to track the evil aura." Noya frowned. "Since he can set up a trap for us, we can also set up a trap to force him out, or limit the space he can move in." Morant looked at Morant, and said, "Rest well for some time. When you're better, you can continue with the investigations. Leave things to us for the next couple of days." "All right." Morant nodded. He did not force himself beyond his capabilities. This was Rodu, where 10th tier powerhouses could be gathered quickly. With his current condition, going out would be a burden on others. Mag left and returned to the tavern. On his way back, he met Iafi, who was carrying some takeaway food. Initially, he thought that this woman would be avoiding him because of what happened previously. However, he did not expect her to be more thick-skinned than he imagined. When she saw him, instead of having any intention to avoid him, she went up to him with a smile, and even said coquettishly, "Yo, Isn't this Boss Hades? Why are you out alone for a walk? I bought some groceries, and am now on my way back to cook for my wife and children. Mag shook the basket in his hand. It was filled with some groceries. As an excellent undercover, Mag would always strive to make his cover story natural and logical. Wow, I didn't expect Boss Hades to be a good man who cooks. Eofi covered her mouth in shock. With a soft laugh, she said, I wonder when I would have the chance to try your cooking. Your wife is really a lucky woman. There's probably no chance in this life, Mag answered seriously. Eofi. I'm home. I will not chat further with you. Goodbye, Miss Eofi. Miss nodded with a smile before walking into his tavern. Humph, Eofi watched the tavern door close slowly, and stomped her feet in frustration, telling herself, there is no man that I, Eofi, can't mesmerize. Just you wait, you will be mine. An incapable little vixen. Mag smiled. That amount of charm was of no effect to him at all. The moment Mag closed the door, he met with Irina's smiling gaze. Mag knew that she probably saw what happened earlier, and was pleased with his self-control. Are you opening for business tonight? Irina asked. Yes. I'll still be opening until 9 p.m. Mag took a look at his watch. It was already 6 p.m. He quickly opened the door again, and changed the wooden plaque at the door to indicate that they were open. That thing can wait till we close for the day. He happened to be at home on a leave due to health reasons on the day the Orcs and Elves were attacked, so he managed to evade the calamity. Relax, let's get a couple of drinks. After Hector's gone, there aren't many here who know how to drink, Lucienne said with a sad smile. Hector was that senior of Bobby's. Lord Lucienne had drunk with them on a few occasions, and was on good terms with Bobby's senior. Bobby nodded, and said, sure. I happened to discover a new tavern at Romo Street yesterday. Their wine was the best I've ever tasted. I'll bring you there to have a try. Oh, there's even a new tavern at Romo Street. Lucienne was rather surprised. The street had been getting rather desolate for the past few years, and he had not gone there to drink in a long time. I also went there by chance last night, and entered the tavern because of the fragrance of the wine. It was indeed a good wine that is hard to come by, Bobby said. Sure. Let's try it out. Lucienne nodded. The two boarded Lucien's horse-drawn carriage, and went straight to Saipan Tavern. Here it is. Bobby opened the door for Lucienne. Here. Lucienne looked at the tavern. It looked very ordinary from the outside. Yes. Bobby nodded. Let's check it out. Lucienne alighted the horse-drawn carriage. He wanted to have a drink. Although he managed to avoid the changes that happened in the Ministry of Defense over these few days due to his illness, he lost many colleagues and friends. Moreover, the people started to become paranoid, and it also affected his mood. Hector was his colleague of more than 30 years, and they were in the same batch entering the ministry. They had been drinking together frequently all these years, and he did not expect Hector to pass away so suddenly. That was indeed very difficult for him to accept. When he walked out from the Ministry of Defense today, and chanced upon Bobby, he invited Bobby to have a drink in memory of Hector since he knew that Bobby had been drinking often with Hector. He also had a few drinks with Bobby on certain occasions, and found that they could get along rather well. This tavern was rather quiet, or rather desolate, which was a very stark contrast to the noise and crowd in the tavern right across the street. Bobby pushed open the door to the tavern, and there were no customers at all indeed. There was only the owner of the tavern cleaning the wine glasses behind the bar counter. Mag looked up and recognized Bobby straight away. From Bobby's humble attitude, Mag could tell right away that the middle-aged man that came in after Bobby was way higher in rank. On top of that, Mag could recognize Lucienne very quickly. He was a deputy manager in the Ministry of Defense, and his impression was rather positive in Alex's memories. This was someone who held the real power in the Ministry of Defense, the kind who knew many core secrets. "Welcome," Mag said with a smile. Lucien looked around this new tavern. The renovation was not lavish, but was comfortable enough. The warm yellow light from the oil lamp made one feel very comfortable. On top of that, the tavern was very warm, giving one the urge to take off their thick jacket upon entering. The owner was a young man in his 30s. He looked average, and there was nothing unique about his features. He was probably the kind that would be overlooked if you threw him into a crowd. However, he looked rather kind and friendly. A new tavern, a young owner, and only 2 customers. This made Lucien's expectations drop right to the bottom. It seemed like Bobby's taste was a far cry from that of Hector. "Sir, let's take a seat there." Bobby brought Lucien to a seat near the door. He could tell the change in Lucien's expression, but he was not flustered. This tavern might look ordinary, but that was because the wine was not served yet. "What would you like?" Mag asked with a smile. "Sir, I had Mao Tai yesterday. Why don't we try a bottle of that today?" Bobby asked Lucien. "Sure." Lucien nodded. He looked at the simple list of alcohol at the bar counter. There were only 2 types of alcohol, Mao Tai and whiskey, for 2,000 copper coins each. The price was rather high. Other than these 2 types of alcohol, there were also 3 side dishes to go with the drinks. The prices were way lower compared to the drinks. This drinks menu was rather pathetic. Lucien even started questioning the speed at which Bobby's taste dropped since Hector passed away. "A bottle of Mao Tai and all 3 side dishes," Bobby told Mag. "All right, please hold on for a moment." Mag nodded. He turned to enter the kitchen, and came out with the 3 dishes and a bottle of Mao Tai soon. Lucien's gaze was attracted to the 3 side dishes at first. They were a plate of peanuts, the most common side dish in taverns. However, taverns would usually give the peanuts out for free, while this tavern sold it as a side dish. The other 2 plates were the pig ears salad and pig tongue salad. The names of the side dishes alone made Lucien lose his appetite. He even found them disgusting. However, when the dishes were served, the pig ears and tongue, which were sliced thinly, were covered with a layer of chili oil. The fragrance wafted over, and it actually made Lucien swallow his saliva. Bobby had already opened up the bottle of Mao Tai adeptly. He opened up the red cloth, and he pulled out the cork. The fragrance of the wine that was sealed in the bottle wafted out immediately. This fragrance! Lucien quickly turned over to look. He was rather shocked at the bottle of wine in Bobby's hands. The rich fragrance was so enticing. Bobby poured the wine into a cup. The clear alcohol swirled a little in the crystal glass. "Please." Bobby placed the glass gently in front of Lucien with both hands. Lucien inched closer to take a whiff. He was still in disbelief. He looked at Bobby, and asked, "This wine? What is it?" "Mao Tai. It should be a type of grain wine," Bobby said. "Just the smell of it, and I can tell that it's a good wine. Such a pity that Hector won't be able to try it." Lucien sighed gently, and took a sip of the wine. The wine was fine and silky, refreshing and sweet. It was so smooth as it flowed through his teeth and into his throat. Lucien was not a heavy drinker, but he had tried many good alcohols. However, even those that were presented in the palace did not shock him as much as this wine. The fragrance of the wine was intoxicating. In an instant, Lucien seemed to have gone back to the days when he just entered the Ministry of Defense. He was young and ambitious. He wanted to do great things. In a flash, decades passed, but nothing was the same. After a very long time, Lucien opened his eyes. There were tears in his eyes. He finished the remaining wine in his glass in a shot. Bobby glanced at Lucien, and did not speak. He also chugged the wine in his glass down, and silently refilled Lucien's glass. He was a good man. It's such a pity that he left just like that. This is too sudden, Lucien said softly as he looked at the filled glass in front of him. Chapter 2017 Josh. As a pro interrogator, how could Mag miss this opportunity? He went up and sat with them. You, who are you? Why are you sitting with us? Lucien was still a little cautious as he tilted his head to look at Mag. Here. Have another glass. Mag helped Lucien fill his glass, and put it in his hand. Lucien put the glass to his mouth mechanically, and chugged it down. After that, he appeared even drunker. Lucien put his arms around Mag's shoulder, and slurred, where was I? You said that Josh came to the Ministry of Defense, and then gathered all the courtiers in His Majesty's name, Mag replied. Yes. Josh gathered all the courtiers in power at the Ministry of Defense, and then took out His Majesty's plaque, and ordered them to deploy the border troops to attack the Orcs and Elves. What did we do? We just obeyed the order to treat the plaque the same as him that His Majesty set back then. We listened to Prince Josh's orders, and gave out commands. Lucien covered his face and held back his tears, but could not help but sob. In the end, we, the loyal courtiers, are the ones punished for the crime, and the people dead are our families. What logic is this? Under Mag's guidance, Lucien, the big boss of the Ministry of Defense, started pouring out his grievances. He spilled out all the backstory, Andre's attitude at that time, and all the first-hand news that even Chaos City might not be able to find out. Half an hour later, Mag went out to call Lucien's coachman and guards in to bring the two drunk officials back. A day's operation has ended once again. Mag watched the horse-drawn carriage leave, and flipped the wooden plaque at the door. There was quite a lot of information gained today, which allowed him to have a rough understanding of the current situation in the Roth Empire's court. Closed again? Are the taverns opened by rich people so boring? Eofi mumbled to herself when she saw Mag flip the wooden plaque as she sent a drunk customer out. She wanted to experience the dry and boring life compared to her hectic hustling every day. Eofi sighed. Sigh, what a pity he came too late. Are we setting off now? Irina came downstairs. She had changed, and was dressed in tight black clothes that showed her perfect curves. Hold on. Mag went upstairs, and came down in all black as well. However, he was wearing a loose black robe and a large hat whose shadow could cover his face completely. He then pulled his hat down. Irina looked at him, stunned. Familiar? Mag asked with a smile. How did you do that? Irina went up to touch his face. When Mag went upstairs, he actually disguised himself as Josh. It was a complete replica. I got my hands on a mask previously. After wearing it, I can change my face to become anyone, Mag explained. Oh, Irina thought for a while, and asked, then can you become me? Mag said. Theoretically, it should not be a problem. Tisk, tisk. Spill it. What did you use this mask for in the past? Irina asked him with a smile. I don't cross-dress. Mag quickly waved his hands. Hat. Irina laughed. She pulled out her magic caster's staff, and said, let's go. After a golden flash, the two disappeared from the tavern. At home. In the mansion. But there's a 10th tier knight guarding his room. Leave the knight to me. I'll leave Bloom to you. Take care of the details. We only have 3 minutes. Go. Two shadows flashed past the sky above the general's mansion. Did you see anything pass by just now? Your eyes must be playing tricks on you, or did you have too much fun last night that you're too weak now? Two guards standing at the wall muttered to each other. Mag and Irina split up after entering the mansion. This mission was called, Kill Bloom. Of course, his death was not Mag's goal. The key was how they were going to frame Josh. Mag's target was the 10th tier knight, and killing Bloom would be left to Irina, the master of special effects and lighting. She would be the one presenting the large-scale horror film directed by Mag to Bloom. Mag squatted on a tree branch not far away. He watched the 10th tier knight who was sitting upright outside the room door. He had his long sword by him, and although his eyes were closed, Mag could sense his strong powers. Mag recognized this knight. Lear was a very powerful knight in the military. He was an upright person, and was not Bloom's aide. He was probably deployed by Andrei to protect Bloom. From this distance, Mag was very confident in claiming his life with his flying sword. However, such a killing style would easily make people connected to him. Besides, Mag did not intend to kill Lear, who was considered a rather good knight among the 10th tier knights. It was not worth it for him to die because of a villain like Bloom. Therefore, Mag jumped right out, and walked towards Lear, who was sitting by the door. Shadows started appearing behind Mag. These were just special effects made by light which Mag bought from the system. It was usually used on stage for special effects. At the same time, a concave force field started rising slowly, enveloping the entire courtyard to separate it from the outside world. The knight, who sat with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, he quickly grabbed his long sword, and stood up slowly while watching the man in a black robe walk slowly towards him. With a grave expression, he exclaimed, "Who are you?" "Chi, Chi." The man in a black robe let out a creepy laugh, and suddenly started dashing towards the knight. The knight held his sword in both hands, and started rushing towards the man in a black robe. At the same time, he sent out a signal for help. The two were only tens of meters apart, and would soon collide. The knight held his sword in both hands, and brandished it down. A horrifying sword projection rose from the sword, tearing everything in its path. However, the man in a black robe moved like a phantom. He dodged the long sword narrowly, and was not harmed a single bit except for a corner of his clothes being sliced off. The knight's expression changed. He wanted to retract his long sword, but was pierced by something fiery at the back of his waist. He suddenly fell forward. "Ah! Josh!" Just then, a terrible cry came from the room behind. "General!" The knight's expression changed. He could not care about the pain in his waist, and turned back to check. Bloom's room was already ablaze, and the raging fire was quickly expanding outwards. "Darn!" The knight pounced at the man in a black robe with his sword. The man in a black robe might seem like a phantom, but he still suffered several cuts. He suddenly darted backward, and the black robe fell off to reveal his face. "Prince Josh!" The knight was stunned, and paused instinctively. The man in a black robe escaped in a hurry, darting into the fire, and disappearing out of sight. After the invisible force field disappeared, the guards at the general's mansion realized that there was something amiss at this side of the mansion. They quickly rushed over with buckets of water and their weapons to put out the fire and save the general. Not long later, Lear, with half his hair burnt, rushed out of the fire while carrying a body. The guards all came up, and put out the fire on Lear. After that, they all looked at the general that was in Lear's arms. The big and burly General Bloom was reduced to skin and bones. It was as though he was sucked dry. He had a horrified expression, as though he had seen something terrifying, causing his eyes to be wide open even till his death. "Ah!" Lear did not notice that as he was in a rush to save the general from the fire. When he finally saw the horrifying look of Bloom in his arms, he got such a shock that he threw the body out. "What? The great general is..." The guards all retreated quickly. When they saw the lifeless Bloom, their expressions changed. Lear quickly calmed down. He looked at Bloom's corpse with a grave expression, and said, "Put the fire out first and seal the place. Do not spread the news of this incident. I will report this to His Majesty right away." "Yes." Although the guards were horrified, they quickly did what they had to prevent the fire from spreading. News of the murder at military generals' houses had been spreading recently, and they did not expect to find themselves in the same situation today. Thankfully, Lord Lear was around, so they managed to survive. Lear only hurried off to the palace after watching the guards cover Bloom's corpse with a sheet. There were water-type magic casters among the guards, so the fire was under control very quickly. "Did you hear anything just now?" "I think I heard Lord Bloom call out Josh." "I did too. On top of that, I even heard Lord Lear call him Prince Josh. Could it be that this was done by Prince Josh?" The guards discussed the matter softly in fear and terror. "Hush! Do not spread this around. Watch out for your heads," a middle-aged guard chided coldly. The expressions of the guards all changed, and they did not dare to speak further. The fire at Great General Bloom's mansion was not a small matter. The residents living nearby saw it clearly for themselves. The thought of the murder case a few days ago made them even more paranoid. Shocked to death, Mag turned to ask Irina a question after watching the distant fire being put out. "Almost. He was knocked out from the shock, and then I used a blood-sucking bat to suck out all his blood essence. It looked almost like the corpse you saw previously." Irina nodded. She looked at Mag's torn clothes, and said, "You're injured. On purpose. How else could I let him see my true looks accidentally?" Mag was still wearing the mask with Josh's face. He now took down the mask with a smile. "Now, we'll just have to see how Andrei decides to settle this." Irina smiled. "Framing him using Josh's method. I think he would be rather happy if he found out." The powerhouses nearby were quickly gathered due to the fire at Bloom's mansion. Some of them were 10th tier knights and magic casters. When they arrived at the mansion, they were shocked to find out that Bloom was dead, and when they saw his corpse, their expressions changed completely. Such a horrifying death would inevitably make one connect it with the devil that had been terrorizing everyone. Under the interrogation of the few big bosses, the guards even spilled out that Bloom called out Josh's name before he died. The 10th tier knights and great magic casters all exchanged looks. They could see the fear and horror in each other's eyes, and did not probe further. Due to the war, the Ministry of Defense had been in a chaotic situation in this period. There were rumors saying that Prince Josh stole the king's military plaque, started a war on the Orcs and Elves on his own, and disappeared without a trace. The more one knew, the more frightened one would be. If Josh was the one who killed General Bloom, he would most probably be the one responsible for the murders at the several other generals' homes previously. Murder and arson. It was the exact same method. If it were not because of Lear today, the great general's mansion would probably have been burnt to ashes. Besides, there was almost no complete corpse left in the previous murder cases. Lear risked his life to carry Bloom's corpse out from the fire, but it was already in such a horrifying state. It was inevitable for one to associate it with the devil. Another fire? Could it be done by someone again? Lewis looked out at the blazing roof afar. It appears that there was a fight between powerhouses. Let's check it out. Douglas appeared beside Lewis. He looked out at the fire with a grave expression before he took a step forward, and traveled 100 meters. "Wait for me." Lewis followed behind quickly. The fire at the general's mansion made the entire situation at Rodu tense. Meanwhile, the couple who committed the murder and arson were having hot pot with their 2 children after they returned home. "Here, try this duck intestine. The beef is done too. I'll get it on my own." Mag smiled gently and spoke very gently like a benevolent father. Food was piling up in Amy's bowl, and she could not stop eating. Irina was also chatting casually with Mag as she put food in Annie's bowl in a similarly relaxed manner. "Are you full? Do you want another serving of mutton roll?" Mag asked with a smile when he saw Amy finishing all the food in her bowl. "It's all right. Mother says that I should eat less before I sleep at night. Otherwise, I would become a little fatty." Amy put her chopsticks down and shook her head obediently. "All right." Mag nodded with a smile. Amy was indeed controlling herself tonight. She only ate as much food as 3 adults. The 2 children could not sleep after having supper, so they played a while downstairs with Ugly Duckling. Mag went to the kitchen to continue experimenting on the mung bean pastries recipe. Mag had now mastered many culinary techniques, but none of the desserts he made was good enough. The mung bean pastry was a good direction for him to work on. Besides, he was quite curious about the system's mysterious prize. Would it be more dessert recipes? The 2 little fellows were quite fond of snacks, so they would definitely be happy if Mag could make them more delicious desserts. A helping of mung bean pastry with uneven sugar distribution, a helping of mung bean pastry with a rough texture, a helping of mung bean pastry that is too sticky. The system included footnotes for Mag to know where exactly was the problem with each helping of mung bean pastries so that he could refine it. Father, I am very tired. Can we sleep now? Amy rubbed her sleepy eyes as she peeked her little head into the kitchen. A helping of qualified mung bean pastry. Ding! Congratulations on completing the mung bean pastry improvement mission. You have gained the title of Elementary Patissier. Awarding a big dessert gift package. Please accept your gift. The system's voice rang in Mag's mind almost simultaneously. Upon clicking open the gift package, 5 experience bags popped up: mung bean cake, red bean cake, milk custard, mango pancake, and salted egg yolk pastry. Wow, it's indeed a gift package. Mag lit up his eyes. This was his first time receiving 5 recipes at once. It was rare for the system to be generous. He felt that the mung bean cake and red bean cake were just ordinary, but he loved the salted egg yolk pastry. He didn't expect the system to include it in the gift package. Perfect. It's rather perfect. Mag nodded with satisfaction. He clicked on the mung bean cake's recipe first. The complete and detailed recipe, with the master patissier's experiences and techniques, swarmed into his mind instantly. Mag opened his eyes, and mumbled to himself, there's indeed a huge difference between passable and perfection. The system is rarely so magnanimous. The more he understood, the more respectful he got. After receiving the master's experience, Mag immediately realized that the mung bean cake that he thought was perfect was only a substandard product. However, with his own study experience, it would obviously be much easier to learn, so he didn't rush to enter the test field for the god of cookery. Instead, he clicked open the salted egg yolk pastries experience bag next. This is simply too difficult, right? Mag opened his eyes after a long time. His gaze was still dazed. If the mung bean cake's level of difficulty was 1, then the level of difficulty for the salted egg yolk pastry should be 5. Be it the number of ingredients, complexity of the procedures, or all the different kinds of techniques, they all stunned Mag. After all, he was still a rather new patissier who couldn't even be considered as a novice. He could already foresee the difficulty that he was going to face. Come on, let's accept the challenge. Mag lay down, closed his eyes, and pushed open the door to the test field for the god of cookery. This was destined to be a long night for Mag. The next morning, Mag opened his eyes, and saw 4 pairs of eyes again. You're awake. Irina looked at him smilingly. The sun is already shining down on your butt, Amy also smilingly said. Mag still hadn't recovered from the salted egg yolk pastry's nightmare. He blinked and turned to look at the alarm clock at the side of the bed. It's already 11 am. Mag was slightly taken aback. This was already more than the sun shining down his butt. It was already noon. Embarrassed, Mag sat up and put Ugly Duckling, which was sleeping on his arm, to the side, and said, I seem to have overslept a little. It's more than a little. We couldn't wake you up no matter how. I almost wanted to treat you. Irina pursed her lips. Perhaps I'm just too tired. Mag tried to change the topic. His sensation of the outside world was sealed off when he was in the test field for the god of cookery. The system wouldn't notify him if it didn't sense any threats, so he didn't hear Irina's calls at all. You guys must be hungry. I'll go make break lunch for you guys. Mag got up from the bed. We already had breakfast. You left quite a bit of mung bean cake from last night, and there is milk in the fridge. Amy patted her tummy. But, I am hungry again. Let's go downstairs. I'll make you new desserts after lunch. Mag patted Amy's head smilingly. New dessert? Hum. I had a good sleep and a good dream. I learned it in my dream. Mag nodded. Are you for real? Can you learn to cook in your dreams? Irina looked at Mag with doubt. You will see it later if you don't believe me. Moreover, I have improved the mung bean cake. I will let you try the real mung bean cake today. Mag walked out confidently. Mag took a break after lunch before going into the kitchen to make the mung bean cake and salted egg yolk pastry. The system gave him a whole new set of molds, culinary tools, and an oven after he learned the recipes. The mung bean cake was relatively easier, but its preparation work was more complicated. Fortunately, he had already soaked some mung beans in the fridge last night. He could start making the mung bean cakes after removing the skins. It saved him plenty of waiting time. Meanwhile, it was much more complicated to make the salted egg yolk pastry. Irina stood at the kitchen's entrance as she watched Mag take the ingredients and condiments out from the fridge. She perplexedly asked, "When did you buy all those things? I didn't see you buy them when we went out shopping yesterday." Mag's hands froze in midair. She finally had suspicions about the inexhaustible ingredients that appeared in the fridge mysteriously after so long. "Oh, I know it. You must have bought them when you went to buy the mung bean pastry." Just as Mag was trying to come with an explanation, Irina had already found a perfect excuse for him. "Yes. It's exactly like that." Mag nodded. The complexity of the salted egg yolk pastry stemmed from its four-layered structure. The exterior layer was also the glazed layer that engulfed the pastry skin. Their layers were created by rolling it over and over again with the rolling pin. The salted egg yolk was wrapped in red bean paste before being wrapped in the pastry skin. A layer of egg yolk glaze would be brushed over the surface, and sesame seeds would be scattered over it before putting it into the oven. Furthermore, the pastry needed to be coated and baked twice during the baking process. The salted egg yolk pastry would be removed, coated with the egg yolk wash, and put back into the oven again 3 times before the golden and crispy salted egg yolk pastry was formally done. The entire process was like an artistic performance. The 2 children also came to the kitchen's entrance, and watched Mag's performance. They were mesmerized. "Father is really so formidable." Amy opened her mouth slightly with admiration in her eyes. Annie's expression was also similar. She was also looking at Mag with a gaze full of admiration. Irina leaned against the door frame, and looked at Mag with interest. She didn't know why, but the Mag who put down his longsword, picked up his chef's knife, and cooked quietly in the kitchen gave her a peaceful and reliable sensation. It was as if a boat that had been wandering around had finally found a harbor where it could dock. Ding! The oven's sound rang out. Mag turned off the power, and opened the oven. "Smells so good." A milky aroma together with the aroma of the egg pastry filled the kitchen and surged towards the kitchen's door. The eyes of the 3 people watching at the door all lit up. Mag brought out a tray of salted egg yolk pastry from the oven under their stare. The golden skin had a layer of glaze with specks of sesame decorating it. It looked extremely enticing. "This is the salted egg yolk pastry, but you can only eat it after it cools down." Mag walked out with the salted egg yolk pastry smilingly. Amy tilted her head, and asked Mag expectantly, "Father, when can we eat the salted egg yolk pastry? We still need to wait a while. It will taste even better after it cools a little." Mag knew that the little one was already getting impatient, but the brief wait necessary in order for the salted egg yolk pastry to achieve the best texture would be very worthwhile. "We just need to let it cool down, right?" Irina asked Mag. "Yes. Then, I have a solution. Irina went into the kitchen, and made some sounds in there. Shortly after, Irina came out with a box that was carved out of ice. Its top was open, and chopsticks were used to make a support at the bottom over a plate. Irina used the chopsticks to place a few pieces of salted egg yolk pastry into the icebox, and they cooled down rapidly. There was no problem with physical cooling, so Mag didn't stop her. Soon, Amy tiptoed and used her finger to gently poke at the salted egg yolk pastry in the icebox before exclaiming, "They are already cool." Mag used the chopsticks to poke the skin of the pastry. It had already hardened. He nodded, and said, "We can eat it now. Father will have one first." Amy reached out to grab one salted egg yolk pastry, and passed it to Mag. "Little Amy, you will eat it first. I will eat it later." "No way. Father has a hard time making it. Father has to eat the first salted egg yolk pastry." Amy shook her head with conviction. "All right. I will eat it." Mag accepted the salted egg yolk pastry, feeling so touched. Daughters were still the best. Hee hee. Amy smiled. She gave Annie and Irina one each before picking up the last salted egg yolk pastry, and took a big bite. Ah, so delicious. So satisfying. The slightly crispy skin was wrapped around the pastry, forming layers of crispy texture that crumbled in the mouth as soon as she bit into it. The teeth easily bit open the red bean paste and egg yolk. The exquisite texture and taste made the little one sway left and right. Her two short legs swung gently, and her face had a satisfied expression. "Is it that delicious?" Irina looked at Amy, who was immersed in the scrumptiousness of the salted egg yolk pastry, and bit into one herself too. A hint of disbelief appeared in Irina's eyes. Under the pastry skin was the soft red bean paste and the savory salted egg yolk that was wrapped in the very center. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Crunchy, soft, sweet, and savory. Different kinds of sensations filled the mouth. How could one mouthful be enough? One mouthful followed by another mouthful. The small salted egg yolk pastry all went into her stomach quickly. She licked the pastry skin on the fingertips, and then licked her lips. She looked at Mag with satisfaction. "Not bad. It's delicious. It was actually more than delicious. It was super delicious." Irina had never eaten such a delicious dessert before in her life. Be it that exquisite layered combination, that crunchy exterior and tender interior, or that innovative creation of the red bean paste wrapping around the salted egg yolk, they were all amazing. Compared to the mung bean cake, this salted egg yolk pastry had already taken the #1 spot in her heart. Annie nibbled on the salted egg yolk pastry. Judging from her curled lips and surprised expression, she was similarly very satisfied with the salted egg yolk pastry. Mag's lips curled up slightly. He was feeling rather satisfied with himself. As a chef, his greatest satisfaction was receiving others' acknowledgement for the food that he had painstakingly cooked. Furthermore, they were the people that were the closest to him and he cared the most about. Suddenly, he felt that the dozens of days that he spent battling with the salted egg yolk pastry in the test field for the god of cookery last night were very worthwhile. Mag picked up the salted egg yolk pastry, and took a bite. This salted egg yolk pastry that was perfectly done in every aspect was indeed so scrumptious that it could make a grown man weep. Even all those salted egg yolk pastries that he had eaten before could only be considered as inferior when compared to this salted egg yolk pastry. Irina placed a few more salted egg yolk pastry into the icebox to cool down, and casually asked, "So, is the tavern going to sell desserts?" "No. Saipan Tavern doesn't deserve them." Mag shook his head and smiled. "This salted egg yolk pastry will be reserved for the customers of Mamie Restaurant. Just take it as compensation for the time we will be away for our vacation." "Oh, yes. You haven't cooked for that grandfather and grandson duo in the morning, and you didn't send them food for lunch, either," Irina reminded him. Oh dear! I have forgotten about them. Mag slapped his head. He had indeed messed up all his plans by waking up late. He went into the kitchen to make one helping of braised chicken and rice for Morant and Noah each. After packing them up, Mag packed 2 salted egg yolk pastry for them too before sending the food to them via the teleportation portal. Grandpa, did Boss Mag forget about us? Noah stared at the simplified teleportation portal in the corner of the room and gulped. As a member of the Ghost Clan, don't keep thinking about food. You look useless, Morant lectured. However, he couldn't help staring at the corner, and his stomach began to growl uncontrollably. These 2 days were the most comfortable life that they had ever led. They didn't have to wander around, and their 3 meals were taken care of. Moreover, they were extremely delicious food. However, today's breakfast and lunch weren't delivered on time. They actually weren't used to it. Right then, a golden light flashed in the corner, and a takeaway box appeared. It's here. Noah jumped up from bed excitedly, and ran over to pick up the takeaway box. He placed it on the small table at the side, and opened it reverently. The rich chicken soup's aroma filled the room. Oh! This enticing aroma! He's indeed Boss Mag. Noah took a deep sniff as he took out 2 extra large helpings of braised chicken and rice. However, what are these? Noah took out 2 separately plated portions of salted egg yolk pastry on the topmost layer. It has the aroma of an egg. Perhaps it is the baked egg of some bird. Morant picked up a salted egg yolk pastry, and sniffed it before taking a bite. The crunchy skin wrapped up an amazing taste. The crunchy aroma of the skin, the sweet aroma of the red bean filling, the savory aroma of the salted egg yolk. All kinds of flavors exploded in his mouth layer by layer before overlapping together, and releasing an incredible taste. Rib. Morant's clothes ripped and revealed his fit chest. Are you exaggerating? Noah looked at Morant's ripped clothes, and then bit into the other salted egg yolk pastry. Chapter 2021 What's wrong with a man being perverted? This scrumptious sensation was simply too touching. This food made a grown man weep, and ripped the shirt of a 700-year-old man. Was this the test of humanity? A grown man weeping over a tiny dessert, Morant said disdainfully. Noah sniffled as he reminded Morant, then pull up your shirt first, Grandpa. Take care of your image. The tiny salted egg yolk pastry went into their stomachs soon. The 2 of them looked at each other, and saw the unfulfillment in each other's eyes. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't go out now, and they were embarrassed to ask Boss Mag for more, they could easily eat another 10. Come, let's eat. Noah took out the braised chicken, sat down, and started eating. They didn't know if it was because they had missed breakfast, but the braised chicken and rice tasted extra delicious today. Even the rice tasted better as they chewed. The news of the great general's residence being burnt down and Great General Bloom being assassinated last night had already spread in the city of Rodu. It became one of the people's hot after-meal discussion topics. Together with the massacres of the few Ministry of Defence's courtiers in the past 2 days, all the courtiers began to fear for their lives. Even the ordinary folks were terrified. Furthermore, there were gossips that General Bloom had called out the name of the second prince, Josh, before he died, and the 10th tier Knight Lear, who was in charge of his protection, mentioned Josh too. There was also news that the orders to invade the Orcs and the Elves were also given by Josh behind the king's back. He massacred the Ministry of Defence's courtiers' families because he was furious over getting exposed. Of course, such news couldn't be spread above board, but because it was shocking and rather reasonable, it began to spread uncontrollably. Of course, the news of Great General Bloom's horrible death spread together with that bit of gossip. Some said he had met a ghost, while others said Josh was the devil. No matter which piece of news it was, they were all terrifying and nerve-wracking. Moreover, nobody had seen Josh going to court during this time, so it sort of proved the authenticity of this news circumstantially. The palace. In the royal study, Andrei swept the documents that were piled up high onto the floor, and yelled angrily, "Bastard!" The courtiers in the royal study lowered their heads in fear. They didn't dare to make a sound. Lear stood in a corner with his head lowered nervously too. He reported the incident to His Majesty in the palace last night. The king was furious, and ordered 10 10th-tier powerhouses to comb through Rodu a few times, but the suspect couldn't be found. Richard bowed, and said, "Your Majesty, this matter hasn't been investigated thoroughly yet, but there were already rumors about Prince Josh becoming the devil's puppet and massacring the courtiers. I think we should stop the spread of such rumors." Andrei's gaze landed on Richard. It was razor sharp. Sweat began to bead on Richard's forehead. "Then, you will go get me Josh, and let him explain to me face to face," Andrei said coldly. "I have no idea where Prince Josh is right now." Richard's voice quivered. "If so, how can you prove that he is innocent?" Lear saw with his own eyes. Bloom called out his name before he died. "Have you seen his body?" If he hadn't seen something so horrifying, how could an experienced veteran general have died of fright? How could he have gotten drained of all his blood? Andrei's tone became piercing. Richard dropped to his knees with a plop, and his sweat began to drip onto the floor. Andrei coldly said, "Find him. However, I don't want to hear anything about this incident anywhere else." "Yes," all the courtiers answered, and a few of them quickly left. "All of you may go now." "Lear, stay back," Andrei said. All the courtiers left, and Lear was the only one who stayed. "Are you certain that it was Josh that you saw last night?" Andrei asked Lear. "Yes. Although he was wearing a black robe, I wounded him when I was fighting with him. I happened to see his face, and I am certain that it was Prince Josh." Lear nodded. "He is a magic caster who has never learned how to wield a sword." Andrei frowned. His movements were shifty and weird. "He didn't fight with me directly, but his power should be above the 9th tier, and not that of a magic caster's. Furthermore, there was an uncomfortable aura emanating from him. It made one fearful when one got close to him." Lear recalled the situation where he fought with the man in black robe last night. He was still getting chills down his back. Andrei nodded slightly, and frowned silently for a while before waving his hand, and said, "You may leave." "Yes," Lear answered, and quickly retreated out of the royal study. Andrei sat down slowly. He was silent for a long time before saying to a corner, "What do you think about this?" A black shadow slowly appeared from the corner, and said hoarsely, "Your Majesty, Lear isn't lying. Bloom's corpse is indeed weird too. I checked the scene last night, and an eerie evil aura was indeed found there. Although I am not certain that it was done by the second prince, I'm afraid it has something to do with the devil." "Find him and bring him back to me," Andrei said. "Yes. What's going on now? Seems like Josh has indeed become the devil's puppet. He has even killed Bloom. I'm afraid he will kill more people to start a war so that he can absorb more resentment," Lewis, who was next to the window, told Douglas, who was sitting at the table. "It seems like Andrei doesn't want anyone else to know about it. Even when his son has done him a misdeed behind his back, he would rather undertake all this silently himself after he came back," Douglas coldly said. "But we can't let him cover this up. The Norland continent will never have peace if the devil assumes control over him too. So, we will pull off his underwear since he wants to cover it up." "Whoa! Are you that perverted? What's wrong with a man being perverted? It's great. I like it. But, what do we do? Since he doesn't want people to know about this, we will make this known to everyone on the Norland continent, and make Josh a wanted man. We will find him, and then kill him," Douglas said coldly. "I need to run an errand." "I'm going to get a letter," Mag informed Irina before going out. The Grey Temple had an office in Rodu. As an individual who had received the highest clearance, Mag had gotten in touch with the Grey Temple's office on the first day that he arrived at Rodu. He could receive the latest intel every day. This was much more convenient and accurate than the intel that he had to search for and buy outside himself. These were the latest first-hand news. Perhaps even Michael hadn't even received them yet. This shocking news shook the court. Meanwhile, on the other side of the news, it meant that the fight for the throne that had lasted over 10 odd years had finally ended. If Josh chose to sell his soul to the devil, that meant that he was kicked out from the fight for the throne. First Prince Sean would become the only candidate to succeed the throne. The first prince's residence. Josh, that idiot. He finally kicked himself out of the race. I won it effortlessly. Sean laughed heartily while looking at the intel that he had just received. He was, without a doubt, the person who benefited the most from this incident. At first, he was still sad over Bloom's death. After all, the man was Sean's greatest supporter, and he just died suddenly. However, judging from the results now, his death was so worth it. He brought Josh down to the abyss with him, and there was no way Josh could come up again. Your Highness, the palace hasn't released information regarding that yet. I'm afraid we have to take this information with a pinch of salt, a subordinate reminded him. Sean smiled, and said, this news has already become a fact now that it has spread. Josh is already dead from today on. This, Abraham couldn't close his mouth for a long time after hearing the news that his butler reported to him. My lord, should I prepare the carriage for you to go to the palace? The butler asked softly. Abraham pondered silently for a while before shaking his head, and said, there's no need to. His Majesty didn't summon me, and he didn't announce it to the world, either. I think it's most likely to be just rumors. Pass down my orders. No one in the Duke's residence is allowed to discuss this. Otherwise, they will be fired and evicted. The butler left with Abraham's orders, while Abraham began to pace around in the hall with a troubled expression. He shouldn't have done it. No matter how we look at this fight for the throne, Josh still has a 50% chance of winning. Why did he do such stupid things before His Majesty has made his decision? Vanessa is going to cry her heart out if she finds out about this. Sigh, the youngsters nowadays are unfathomable. Douglas looked at the intel in his hand with surprise, and said, seems like we are not the only ones monitoring this event. If Chaos City didn't do it, then it was most likely done by Alex and Irina. This is a drastic measure. Louis nodded too. He was rather impressed by it. Both of them knew the wisdom of the person behind all this. Many people were desperate for the truth in current chaotic situations. They only needed to throw a seed into the world of intel, and the news would spread like wildfire without the need for them to do anything else. The fire is already raging. Then, let's create a gale. Douglas smiled coldly. Soon, an open letter in the giant dragon's name was sent to the Rodu's palace, and its contents quickly spread throughout the Norland continent. In the letter, the giant dragons condemned Andrei for protecting Josh, who was controlled by the devil, allowing him to start a war on the Orcs and the Elves, massacre the courtiers and their families, and attempt to start a new racial war. Moreover, the giant dragons issued an ultimatum to Andrei. They wanted Andrei to apprehend Josh as soon as possible, and give all of them an explanation. If the rumors that were spreading during the day were limited in their influence, the giant dragon's open letter was equivalent to a bomb. It ripped the fig leaf away. The second prince had become the devil, and was massacring people in Rodu. People panicked immediately. This secondary attack was professionally done. Mag looked at the open letter that he had just received with surprise. This impact was equivalent to announcing the end of Josh directly. No matter how Josh could try to whitewash it later, there was no way Josh could become the king of the Roth Empire in this lifetime with a stain like this unless he could control everyone. He could already imagine Andrei's and Josh's fury when they received this news. Irina looked at the letter in Mag's hands with a smile, and said, "We simply start the ball rolling, and it just continues to roll by itself. Its effect is much better than what we have anticipated. The devil made the Norland continent feel threatened, yet the second prince of the Roth Empire, Josh, chose to sell his soul to the devil. The public opinion would force Andrei to investigate this matter thoroughly and cut ties with Josh completely. What was certain was that an anti-Josh alliance was about to be set up. Andrei had already completely lost the legitimacy and initiative to start a war. Furthermore, he might even have to consider how to prove that the Edward royal family didn't all succumb to the devil and become its slave. This is quite good. Mag kept the open letter, and smilingly said to Irina, "My mood is great today. Let's have a good meal. Order whatever you want." Amy poked her little head out from behind the counter, and was the first to announce, "I want to eat salted egg yolk pastry, grilled meat, roasted pig's eyes, grilled fish, then we will have a big barbecue. I'll go prepare for it." Mag walked to the kitchen smilingly. Letting the other party have a taste of his own medicine felt great. "You lied to me. Things didn't go as you said they would. I have nothing now." Beyond Rodu, a furious voice echoed throughout a dark, spacious cave. A faint light cast a vague shadow of the man in black robe on the wall. The shadow was moving gradually, and many tentacles extended from it. "There is no problem with the plan's execution, and the war has already started. You have even gained your current power with that resentment. It's because some horrible fellows have disrupted our plans. You have to find them, and then kill them. I will help you, and everything in this world will belong to you, and everyone will bow to you." A hoarse and low voice sounded in the cave as the black shadow swayed gently. "Kill them? Ha!" Josh laughed hopelessly. "They want to lure me out and kill me. How am I going to kill them? Even you were resealed by Alex too. I have nothing now, and it's all because of you. I shouldn't have trusted you. I shouldn't have trusted you. Whom else can you trust besides me? Relax, it's just the beginning." That shadow's voice became gentler and gentler. Suddenly, the shadow on the wall rushed onto Josh, changed into a black fog, and merged into his body. The shadow on the wall was swaying, and the tentacles could be seen burrowing into Josh's head before disappearing completely. "Now, I am you, and you are me. Chapter 2023 What design is this? This scene had continued for over a year, and the remaining shop's owners were also beginning to consider the issue of closing down. They couldn't survive on passion alone. A few Ministry of Defense's officials followed Lucien on Romo Street, and one of them said, "Lord Lucien, there aren't many taverns left on Romo Street apart from Titan Tavern, but Titan Tavern is too boisterous. Why don't we go somewhere else?" Some of the officials lamented, "Yes. It's only been a year, and it's already so deserted. Romo Street was once the top choice for entertainment. Let me bring you guys to a good place. We really can't find another place like it other than on Romo Street," Lucien said with a smile. The officials were surprised to hear that. Lord Lucien had invited his colleagues from the Ministry of Defense out for a drink today. Due to the big incidents that had happened recently, and how they had nothing on hand to do, they all felt stifled, so they all readily agreed to join Lucien. "Come to speak of it, it was Bobby who brought me here," Lucien said to Bobby, who was standing at the edge. "So it was Lord Bobby who recommended this place. Then, it must have great drinks." The officials were thoughtful and mindful at the same time. Everyone in the Ministry of Defense knew that Hector and Bobby were great friends, and they often drank together. Besides, Lucien and Hector were close friends too. Now that Hector had left, Lucien and Bobby got close to each other. In fact, with Bobby's rank and status, he shouldn't be among the main Ministry of Defense's officials to be invited for a drink, but Lucien still brought him along. Hence, this gave people something to ponder. "I happened to bump into this newly opened tavern 2 days ago, and the drinks were not bad, so I dare to bring my lords here to try them out," Bobby humbly replied. His rank was the lowest among them, and Lucien probably brought him along to give him a leg up in his career. He naturally had to put on his best performance. Soon, their group arrived at the door of Saipan Tavern. All the courtiers were surprised that there was a new tavern here, but since it was Lucien who brought them here, they naturally wouldn't make any comments. They followed him into the tavern. This was a new establishment, but the decor and furniture were all very simple. It wasn't opulent at all, and was vastly different from the taverns they used to frequent. However, due to the recent incidents, they really didn't have the mood to enjoy themselves at the taverns. They only wanted to find a quiet place to drink and chat so that they could ease their dejection. "Oh, we have customers again." Amy poked her little head out from the counter, and looked at the group of people that just came in curiously. "Whoa, what an adorable little girl!" Everyone's eyes lit up as they looked at the exquisite little girl, and they couldn't help smiling. "How do you do?" Amy smilingly said. She was well behaved and adorable. "Him. How do you do, young lady?" Lucien smilingly replied. He had a great impression of this tavern. He enjoyed himself thoroughly last night too. He had a rare good night's sleep when he went home last night, and woke up fresh this morning. He would have thought that it was a great day if not for the news of Bloom's murder. Mag heard the voices, and came out from the kitchen. His lips curled up imperceptibly when he saw Bobby. It was as if the latter was the tavern's promoter. He brought people here to drink frequently, and the groups got bigger and bigger. "What would you gentlemen like to drink?" Mag asked calmly. He wasn't intimidated by their official's attire and aura at all. Lucien took a quick look at their group of 8, and pondered briefly before saying, "We'll have 3 bottles of Mau Tai, a bottle of whiskey, and 2 helpings of the dishes to go with the drinks." "Oh, yes, 2 extra helpings of drunkard peanuts, please." "All right, please give me a minute." Mag nodded and went into the kitchen. A courtier chuckled, and said, "This boss is really interesting. Wherever we go for drinks or meals, those bosses would try their best to suck up to us, but he isn't flustered at all." A courtier also doubtfully said, "Yes. This boss looks very young. Can he really brew great drinks? Perhaps that is his character. However, this boss does indeed brew great alcoholic drinks," Bobby explained with a smile. All of them chose seats that were further in, and started chatting. They soon began to talk about Bloom's assassination. They saw that the tavern was empty, with just a little girl playing at the bar counter, and the boss busying himself in the kitchen, so they began to discuss it tactfully. Bloom was an important general in the military, but he didn't hold any position in the Ministry of Defense, so the Ministry of Defense's officials weren't familiar with him. Hence, his death wasn't as impactful to them as the deaths of several Ministry of Defense's officials and the massacre of their families. However, this assassination brought out other information, which terrified them in hindsight. If it was really Second Prince Josh who killed Bloom, then the murderer who massacred their colleagues' families was very likely to be Josh too. Those courtiers were already sent to prison because of Josh, and their families were massacred before they could be proven innocent. Therefore, many of them committed suicide in prison because they couldn't withstand it. As a highly ranked courtier and due to the sensitivity of this matter, Lucien quickly changed topic after saying a few words about it. "Your drinks and dishes. Please enjoy." Mag quickly served them their drinks and dishes before retreating cleverly. "What design is this? It's so unique." Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw the 3 roly-poly Mau Tai bottles and the thin and narrow crystal whiskey bottle. Given their identities and status, they naturally had drunk good liquor before, but no taverns had spent so much effort on their liquor bottles before. "This is Mau Tai, the most scrumptious liquor I have ever tasted." Bobby picked up a bottle of Mau Tai, and twisted the cap open familiarly. A rich liquor aroma wafted out instantly. "This smell!" All the courtiers' eyes lit up. Some of them who were alcohol lovers even took a deep sniff of it. "I know it's a great liquor just by smelling its aroma. I didn't expect such great liquor to exist in a newly opened tavern on this Romo Street," a courtier praised. Bobby took a few glasses, and poured a glass for each of the courtiers. "I'm not drinking Mau Tai, either." I want to try the taste of this whiskey. Lucien declined Bobby's drink, and instead picked up the bottle of whiskey on the table. It was rare to see crystal bottles of such design. Mag could even get a good price just by selling this crystal bottle alone, but he was using it to hold the liquor. The 2,000 copper coins a bottle liquor was already worth its price tag just with this bottle alone. Let me open it for you. Mag approached just at the appropriate time. He took the whiskey from Lucien, and removed the seal before using the opener to remove the cork. Please enjoy. Mag put down the whiskey. Lucien, who was rather expectant, started frowning. He poured a glass for himself, and put it next to his nose to take a sniff. After that, he turned to Mag, and said, "Sir, is your wine burnt?" "Yeah. There's the smell of smoke," another person agreed. Although it was not a nasty smell, it was not something that should appear in alcohol. The other courtiers all pulled a face. They had never been fooled with inferior goods when they were out for a drink. This owner was not being honest. Bobby looked at Mag. He had a rather good impression of this owner, but if there was something wrong with this alcohol, the other party had better explain himself. This is not burnt. It is the unique burnt fragrance and smoky smell of whiskey. This is the soul of the whiskey, Mag explained. Of course, there would be people who would fall in love with this smell and those who cannot accept it, but it has nothing to do with being burnt. Aren't you trying to smoke your way through? A courtier frowned as he suppressed his anger. The whiskey and Mao Tai are both made by me with all my heart. How can you say that I'm trying to smoke my way through? Why don't you try it for yourself? If you don't like it, don't drink it, Mag said as he stood his ground. Lucien raised his hand slightly, telling the fellow courtiers not to blow their top. He looked at Mag with a smile, and said, "I believe a person who could brew a wine as beautiful as Mao Tai would not lie. Let me try this drink and see if it suits my tastes." After saying that, Lucien took a sip of the whiskey. His brows were tightly knit at first. After that, he raised his eyebrows, and was surprised. After that, the tension between his brows relaxed, and the tasting ended with a smile on his face. This alcohol was rich and dry the moment it entered his mouth. The faint smokiness in his mouth made it rather mysterious. The light burnt smell was not too stinging or bad. In fact, it added some layers to the alcohol. This was very different from the pure and rich fragrance of Mao Tai. It was unique just like that, yet there was a stunningly high quality that was maintained. It was also top-grade alcohol. The smooth and fine alcohol swirled around in Lucien's mouth, and slid down his throat. Its fragrance lingered in his mouth. Lucien knew that he had already fallen in love with this alcohol called whiskey. It was so special and so surprising. Only those who truly knew how to appreciate it could find the beauty hidden behind its deceptive fragrance. Great alcohol. Fabulous. Lucien opened his eyes slowly. He looked at Mag apologetically, and said, "Sir, we were rash. This is beautiful alcohol that is on par with Mao Tai. Enjoy." Mag nodded slightly and left. Now, Bobby and the rest were shocked. "Lord Lucien, is this alcohol really that good?" The courtier who had criticized Mag was in disbelief. "Have a glass and you'll find out." Lucien picked up an empty glass at the side, and poured some for him. "Sure. If you say that it's good, I'll give it a try too." That courtier picked up the glass, and took a sip. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. He frowned at first as well, but his eyes lit up after that, and he looked down at the glass in his hand in shock, and then looked at Lucien. He swallowed the drink, and carefully recalled its taste before nodding in agreement as he said, "This is indeed good. I didn't expect a small tavern like this to have such beautiful drinks." Lord Catala even said that he was trying to smoke his way through with this drink, Lucien mocked. "Hee," Catala smiled awkwardly. He turned toward the bar counter, and said, "Sir, don't mind me. I speak before I think. Your alcohol is fantastic." "No worries, as long as you like it," Mag replied. "Do you want to give it a try?" Lucien asked the other courtiers. "I have been craving this Mao Tai because of its fragrance. I'm afraid this alcohol might not be to my liking. I think I will try this first." "Yet. I haven't smelled a wine so good before. Pour it all out. Let's try this first." The others seemed more interested in Mao Tai before them. "Sure. The side dishes are all served. Let's be at ease and start drinking." Lucien raised his glass with a smile, and reminded them, "Let me warn you first, this alcohol is really strong. Drink it slowly." After that, the tavern echoed with praises for the liquor. Be it Mao Tai or the whiskey, everyone was pleasantly surprised. This table of people brought the rather desolate tavern a little more life that taverns should have. Opening a tavern saves a lot of manpower compared to a restaurant. I went into the wrong field. Mag sat behind the bar counter as he watched the two little fellows play chess on a little stool, and listened to the group of grown men chat. Reminder, please quickly increase the popularity of the tavern. Current popularity points, 8. A small goal for popularity points can be set at 1000 first. Go for it. Gambat. Gambadat? Hearing you call me Dad makes me feel good. Mag nodded. Daddy will work hard one. Piss off, the system hollered. This is not bad. Look at these people chatting happily. After a couple of shots, they will be talking about anything and everything. If there are other customers around, they might not even dare to listen to the conversation. Mag completely ignored the system's hollers. Don't forget that you've bought the other half of the street, the system reminded him. Mag frowned. He realized that things did not seem so simple. He might be making a loss in this investment. The whiskey and Mao Tai were both strong alcohol, especially so for these men who had only been drinking low alcohol content fruit wines. At first, they were still able to chug down the alcohol, but after a few shots and a few peanuts, they were all gone. Recently, Mag did not have any hobbies other than listening to drunk customers and chatting with them. For example, about Bloom, who was killed by him and Irina, or about how the courtiers were feeling recently and what they thought of Josh. Even the Grey Temple might not be able to collect such first-hand news. Mag went out and got the coachman of the courtiers to bring them back. He flipped the wooden plaque at the door, and officially closed for the day. This was it for Josh. His reputation was down the gutter, and the effect was apparent. Now, Josh was akin to the devil in the eyes of these courtiers from the Ministry of Defense. On top of that, they even wanted him dead to take revenge for the dead families and generals of the Ministry of Defense. Besides, they had happily come to a conclusion tonight to write a petition to the king so that he could investigate this case thoroughly and apprehend the killer. Well done. Mag generously waived the cost of a helping of drunkard peanuts off their bill. Judging from his attire, although he did not seem rich, he was definitely not a homeless man. But, one thing Mag could be sure of, the man definitely did not have enough money in his pocket to buy even a glass of wine. However, he did not feel like going home. Therefore, he sat at the door of a tavern while looking at another tavern. The crowd and noise there had nothing to do with me because I had no money. If a man has no money in his pocket, he can never stand up tall. Mag sighed and took out the few gold coins he collected last night, tossing them in his hand. The man appeared to become even more resentful. He glanced at the gold coins in Mag's hand, and retracted his gaze angrily. Judging from physical size, he was not certain that he could snatch those gold coins from this darn tavern owner. After a moment of silence, that man turned back and looked at Mag. I have a story, and you have wine. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested. Mag shook his head. The middle-aged man, pi__pi. But, since you're so interested in the tavern there, why didn't you sit at their doorstep? Mag asked curiously. There are so many people there. I'll be embarrassed. Besides, it's rather warm to sit here. The man glanced at Mag, and was still plenty resentful. Oh, I see. Mag thought for a while, and felt offended all of a sudden. Why? Did he think there's no one here at all? On top of that, he's here for the free warmer? It is rather cold outside today. Mag stomped his feet. Although the warmer inside made the air at the door feel slightly warmer, there was still the chilling wind. Yes. It would be great if there was a place to sit. The man nodded as he rubbed his hands together, and looked at Mag expectantly. This step is rather flat. I'll leave the door ajar for you. Mag smiled generously. After that, he left the door slightly open so that the warm air from the tavern would blow out. Thanks. The man nodded woefully. You're welcome. Mag waved his hand generously, and turned to walk into the tavern. Ah, Pasa sighed, and pulled his little blanket tighter around himself. It was too hard to be a man. He had been a long-distance horse-drawn carriage coachman for more than 20 years. He had been delivering goods for traders, and had been to several places. However, he had just lost his job today. His boss said that war might happen soon, and the trading route would be blocked. There was no idea when it would resume, so all the coachmen were dismissed. It would take 2 more days before he could receive his salary for the month. Even if he did receive his wages from his boss, he would have to hand it over to his wife immediately. Of course, he was not afraid of his wife. He respected his wife. Yes, exactly. He had 3 children at home, and they were all growing. Initially, they could still get by with his meager salary. After sitting around for a while, Pasa got up to go home. He had thought things through. He would look for a job tomorrow, and even if he was not going to be a coachman anymore, he could go somewhere else to find other jobs to do. At least he should not let his family starve. A drink or two. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind. Pasa turned back, and was shocked at Mag, who was carrying a little stool and a tray. Mag placed the tray on the little stool. On the tray was a plate of drunkard peanuts and slightly less than half a bottle of Mau Tai left behind by the group just now. Because there were too many of them, Mag didn't know whom to pass it to, so he decided to settle it this way. Mag sat down beside Pasa on the step with the stool in between them. The door behind them was wide open, and the warm air from inside blew out, chasing away the chill. Pop Mag pulled out the cork, and poured it into 2 glasses. Fantastic wine! Pasa's eyes lit up the moment he smelled the fragrance of the alcohol. He was not a drinker, but coachmen would always drink in the winter to get rid of the cold. After roaming around for so many years, Pasa had also tried wines from various places, but he had never smelled something so aromatic. You have great taste. Mag poured 2 glasses of wine. He reached for a cup, and told Pasa, here, to this dog A**'s life. To this dog A**'s life. Pasa picked up the glass, clinked with Mag, and chugged the liquid down. This was a great wine that Pasa had never had before in his life. The moment he swallowed the wine, the warmth started rushing up to the rest of his body. There was the warmth from this great wine and also the warmth from the wine offered by a stranger in this chilling wind. Drunkard peanuts. Try it. Mag threw 1 peanut into his mouth, and crunched on it. Pasa also put a peanut into his mouth. He was shocked that this ordinary peanut could be so crunchy and spicy. This made him feel like having another glass. Mag filled up Pasa's glass once again. However, he did not clink glasses with him again. This was not beer. If they drank 1 cup after another, this leftover wine would be gone in no time, and he would not know what to do if this fellow got drunk. I'm a coachman. I've been to many places. Twilight Forest, Wind Forest, Chaos City. I've been to all of them. The only place I haven't been to is Demon Islands. I heard that demons eat humans. Besides, you need to take a ferry there, so I didn't go." Pasa started chatting with Mag. However, he did not talk about his hard life, but about the things he saw and heard as a coachman roaming around Norland continent for all these years. Mag was listening rather intently most of the time. He was listening about the world from the perspective of a coachman and what a coachman thought of this world. This was a rather interesting experience. At least it was not something he would experience often in his life. Looking at an ordinary man living life seriously. "Thank you for your beautiful wine. When I have money in my pocket, I'll drink with you again. Next time, it's my treat," Pasa, who was slightly tipsy, told Mag seriously. "Sure, your treat next time." Mag nodded with a smile. He packed the leftover drunkard peanuts, and hung it at Pasa's waist. There were 3 sweets in there too because he heard about his 3 children at home. "Goodbye." Pasa waved his hand, and staggered off. Mag stood by the door, and watched him disappear down the street. After ensuring that Pasa could go home on his own, he turned to enter the tavern, and switched off the light for the signboard. "That fellow is rather strange." The door to Titan Tavern opened. Eofi frowned and was puzzled. "Lady boss, another bottle." A shout came from the tavern. "Coming." Eofi entered the tavern to continue hustling. "Where did you go and have fun? You didn't even come back for dinner? You're getting all capable, aren't you?" A big woman stood at the door of an old house. When she saw Pasa staggering over, she raised her voice, and tightened her grip on the clog in her hand. 3 little heads peeked out from the door behind, looking at Pasa pitifully.